Chapter 39:28. Wang Wenhong spat out a mouthful of blood and screamed as he was sent flying. His heart was filled with disbelief. This Zhuowen seemed to be much stronger than the last time. Just one move was enough to heavily injure him. Soon, Wang Wenhong understood that Zhuowen's power was no longer the power of the five elements, but the more advanced power of yin and yang. He broke through to the yin-yang change. But he's only in the early stage of the yin-yang change. How can he be so strong? Wang Wenhong roared in disbelief. The moment Wang Wenhong was sent flying by Zhuan, Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo arrived in an instant and attacked at the same time. Two terrifying punches came crashing down, causing countless cracks to appear in the surrounding space. It was clear how terrifying their attacks were. Zhuowen, on the other hand, stood calmly in the same spot and threw out two punches unhurriedly. He exchanged punches with Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo. Boom boom. The force of his fist was too terrifying. Wherever it passed, the space exploded, and black holes were constantly wreaking havoc in the surroundings. Gotcha! When the four punches collided, Zhuan was suspended in the air as steady as Mount Tai. His hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo's pupils shrank to the size of needles. Not only were their punches broken, but their right hands were also torn apart by the terrifying power. Blood splattered everywhere. Bang! Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo fell to the ground at the same time. At this moment, the whole place fell into silence. Everyone looked at the scene in disbelief. Song Juanda, Wang Wenhong, and Ming Yingguo were the three strongest geniuses in this trial. They were the seeded contestants. The three of them could easily crush most of the warriors in the trial. And now, Zhuowen was able to severely injure the three geniuses with a single punch each. How terrifying was this guy's strength? Brother Zhuo is so strong. Ziling exclaimed in surprise. When did he break through to the yin-yang change? Li Xinbing muttered to herself in shock. If she remembered correctly, when she first met Zhuowen, he was only in the late stage of the five elements change. It had only been a short while, and he had already reached the yin-yang transformation. His cultivation speed was simply too fast. Zhuowen slowly descended from the void and looked at Song Juanda, Wang Wenhong and Ming Yingguo who were lying not far away. All of you are so weak, how can you be qualified to be called the strongest seeded contestants in the entrance trial? You're all so weak. How dare you challenge me? Zhuowen said slowly. Song Juanda, Ming Yingguo, and Wang Wenhong's faces changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with humiliation, but at the same time, their hearts were filled with fear. They had never imagined that in just a single exchange, the three of them would be heavily injured by this kid. Suddenly, Wang Wenhong covered the wound on his right arm and quickly retreated. He flew out like an eagle, fleeing towards the Great Rift Valley. Wang Wenhong, did I allow you to escape? Zhuowen took a step forward and appeared in front of Wang Wenhong as if he had teleported. He then threw a punch at Wang Wenhong's face. Puchi! This punch was too terrifying. It actually pierced through Wang Wenhong's face, causing his head to explode and his divine soul to dissipate. When Wang Wenhong's corpse fell from the sky, the originally restless Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo's faces were incomparably pale. The two groups of people they had brought with them were also trembling all over. The difference was too great. Three mid-stage yin-yang transformation experts were like ants in the hands of Zhuan. Their hearts were filled with despair. Who else wants to escape? Zhuowen asked indifferently. The entire place was silent. No one answered. Zhuowen came in front of Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo and said indifferently, "The two of you, stop controlling your rank 4 astral weapons." Song Juanda and Ming Yingguo's eyes flickered, revealing their unwillingness. Puchi! A divine soul sword intent suddenly swept out and blasted Ming Yingguo's forehead. Ming Yingguo's eyes were wide open as he stared at Zhuowen. His forehead was pierced, and his divine soul was shattered by the divine soul sword intent. Plop! Ming Yingguo died on the spot. After Ming Yingguo died, the mighty draconic python halberd in the sky lost control and fell from the sky. After killing Ming Yingguo, Zhuowen's gaze fell on Song Juanda. Song Juanda's face was pale and bloodless. He hurriedly withdrew the wooden Buddha statue in the sky. He held the Buddha statue with both hands and respectfully offered it to Jun. Brother Zhua, this lotus Buddha statue is destined to be with you. I'll give it to you. Please don't reject it. Song Juanda smiled apologetically. Zhuan took the lotus Buddha statue in his hand without any hesitation. After carefully examining it, he kept it in the great world. Then he waved his right hand. The three fires' true mirror in the sky released a wisp of flame that wrapped around the draconic python halberd that fell not far away and returned to Zhuowen's side. Brother Tsong, how do you want to die? Zhuan looked down at Song Juanda, who was on the ground, and said word by word. Song Juanda's eyes were filled with fear. He said, Brother Zhua, I've already surrendered. I'm no longer a threat to you. Why do you still want to kill me? Zhuan smiled and said, Why don't I kill you? When you came together and flaunted your strength and asked me for the astral weapon, did you ever think of letting me go? If I was weaker than you and was defeated by you, would I still be alive? Those who kill will be killed by others. Since you want to kill me, I have no reason not to kill you. After saying that, Zhuan ignored Song Juanda, who wanted to refute. Another wisp of divine soul sword essence flew out from between his eyebrows and disappeared into Song Juanda's forehead. Plop. Song Juanda's eyes were lifeless. He fell to the ground and completely lost his breath. After Zhuan kept the spirit rings of Song Juanda and the others, he turned to look at the two groups of people brought by Song Juanda and Ming Yinggu. The two groups of people felt Zhuowen's gaze and were extremely nervous. They were secretly on guard. The girl holding the sword pulled out the divine sword in her hand and stared at Zhuan. Hand over all the headless idols you have and get lost. Zhuowen said coldly. Everyone was stunned at first, then they were overjoyed. They didn't expect that Zhuowen didn't plan to kill them. Therefore, they handed over the headless idols one after another. Anyone else? If anyone is hiding anything, I'll kill them without mercy. Zhuowen said with a murderous aura. The girl holding the sword frowned slightly. She gritted her teeth and took out 3 headless idols. She said, I only have these 3 idols. Zhuowen looked at the girl holding the sword indifferently and kept the idols. He waved his hand and said, You can get lost now. Don't appear in front of me again, or I'll kill you all. Everyone scattered and left the Rift Valley in an instant. Brother Zhua, when did you break through the yin-yang change? You're amazing. Ziling, Li Xinbing, and the others walked out of the temple and came to Zhuowen's side. Ziling's eyes were full of admiration. I broke through last night by chance. It was actually due to luck. We have enough idols. For the next period of time, we'll stay in the temple and don't go out. When 30 days are up, we'll all pass this trial. Zhuan smiled faintly and handed the idols to Ziling and Li Xinbing. Chapter 39-29. For the next period of time, Zhuan basically stayed in the palace. He used the primordial stone as a medium to fuse the 3 rank 4 astral weapons, the dragon python great halberd, the lotus Buddha, and the bronze spear tip, with the 3 fire true mirror. As the 4 rank 4 astral weapons were almost equal in terms of rank, no one could devour the other during the fusion process. In the end, the 4 rank 4 astral weapons melted into a ball of purplish gold liquid in the process of devouring each other. It floated in front of Zhuan. This ball of purplish gold liquid was not much, but the aura it emitted was enough to make Zhuan shudder. Zhuan knew that this purplish gold liquid was already a rank 5 astral weapon. However, Zhuan also knew that the liquid could not be used as a weapon. Therefore, he used his yin and yang energy to continuously polish the purplish gold liquid, causing it to continuously solidify and transform into the shape of a sword. In order to solidify this ball of purplish gold liquid, Zhuan spent 10 days and 10 nights. When he finally completely solidified it, a rough and bladeless sword embryo appeared in front of Zhuan. When Zhuan saw this sword embryo, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. This sword embryo was really too ugly. It was crooked and its surface was full of holes. If it was not for the sword hilt, one would not be able to tell that it was a sword at all. Instead, it looked more like a broken stick. Although the sword embryo's appearance was not anything special, and was even somewhat ugly, the aura emitted from its surface was extremely frightening. Even Zhuo felt fear and trepidation from it. Zhuan held the sword embryo and left the palace, heading into the depths of the darkness. He once again came to the 10,000 feet mountain. Although he had gone through a tribulation at the 10,000 feet mountain, many evil spirits had died. However, not long after, the evil spirits of the 10,000 feet mountain were once again densely packed and endless. However, these evil spirits were not of a high level and could not help Zhuan by much. Therefore, Zhuan was not interested. Let's test this sword embryo on the 10,000 feet mountain, Zhuan muttered to himself. Then he raised his right hand and waved it forward. Instantly, the purplish gold sword embryo emitted a blazing purplish gold light. Then, a terrifying purplish gold sword aura shot out and slashed towards the 10,000 feet mountain. This purplish gold sword aura was too huge. It was as if it connected the heavens and the earth. It was much, much taller than the 10,000 feet mountain. Wherever the sword chi passed, the space collapsed. Countless black holes filled the places where it passed. The evil spirits that were originally scattered in the surroundings fell into the black holes and were torn to pieces. Finally, the sword aura fell 10,000 feet mountain. Then, Zhuo shockingly realized that the entire mountain had been sliced in half. The mountain was split into two halves from the middle. Then, the two halves of the mountain crumbled into fine powder and turned into dust, dissipating into the air. After the purple gold sword chi sliced through the mountain, it did not slow down at all as it shot up into the sky. Then, the dark sky lit up with a blazing purplish gold light. A huge crack appeared in the sky. The crack was simply too long. It was as if it had split the entire sky into two, splitting it into two. Countless living beings in the small world looked up at the sky at this moment, their faces filled with horror. Zhuan looked at this scene in a daze. His pupils shrank to the size of needles and his body trembled slightly. He did not expect the purplish gold sword embryo to be so powerful. With his current cultivation and the purplish gold sword embryo, Zhuan was confident that he would not be afraid of a God Realm Change Realm Master. Many cultivators gathered in the Hongwu Square. These cultivators were all waiting for something in the square. They were the leaders of the various states. They were in charge of leading their respective geniuses to the trial. Wukong State's elder Wulong, perfected Zhang, and the others were also in the square. They were nervously looking at a glowing sphere floating in the middle of the square. The sphere was not big. It was about the size of a human head. Dragon Elephant Hall's elder Pei Shanglong, who was in charge of the trial, was standing in front of the sphere. He was holding the glowing sphere with both hands. This sphere was the entrance to the small world of the trial. During the trial, Pei Shanglong had to keep the entrance open. After 30 days, he would use his own power to teleport all the surviving cultivators out of the small world. Suddenly, Pei Shanglong's face changed. He felt an extremely terrifying power coming from the small world. Bang, bang, bang. The sphere between his hands exploded with dazzling lights. A terrifying sword aura spread out, causing the sphere to tremble as if it would explode at any time. Pei Shanglong groaned. He formed a seal with both hands and a huge god-fiend shadow appeared behind him. A terrifying aura was exposed. The entire square seemed to be shrouded by the god-fiend shadow. Everyone was trembling and their faces turned pale. Pei Shanglong unleashed the full power of the celestial demon transformation, and with a cold roar, he crushed the terrifying sword chi with his hand. The trembling earth finally returned to normal. Pei Shanglong's eyes were serious. The god-fiend shadow behind him slowly disappeared. There was a scratch on his right palm. Blood flowed down slowly. Many of the cultivators in the square were shocked when they saw Pei Shanglong's palm being cut open. Pei Shanglong was a powerhouse in the fiend god transformation state. For there to be an existence in this minor world that could injure Pei Shanglong, how dangerous was this minor world? Pei Shanglong furrowed his brows, his heart was filled with doubts. That small world was a mystic realm discovered by the Hong martial sacred sect. He was very familiar with that small world and knew that the strongest person in that small world should be the evil king of the 10,000 feet mountain. Although the evil king was strong, he could not do anything to a celestial demon transformation expert. Moreover, the terrifying sword aura just now was not from the evil king. It was from a cultivator. Could it be one of the cultivators who took part in the trial? Pei Shanglong thought to himself. But he quickly shook his head. The cultivators who took part in the trial were all juniors. The strongest among them was only in the middle stage of the yin-yang transformation. With this kind of cultivation, he could crush him to death with a single finger. How could he possibly hurt him? It seems that this small world needs to be investigated again. There may be more powerful beings in there. Pei Shanglong laughed coldly. Elder Pei, what happened just now? The sphere. Some people in the square were still in shock and could not help but ask. It's okay. It was just an accident. I have it under control now. Pei Shanglong shook his head. Another 3 days passed. Finally, it was the 30th day. On this day, Duan led Ziling, Li Xinbing and a group of people out of the hall. They silently waited for Pei Shanglong to teleport them. Ziling, Li Xinbing, and the others were very excited. They did not expect that they would pass the trial so easily. Chapter 39:30. Suddenly, a huge crack appeared in the sky above the small world. Pei Shanglong's emotionless voice came from the crack. The trial is over. I'm going to teleport you out. Don't resist. After that, a strong suction force came from the sky, and Zhuan and the others were involuntarily sucked into the crack in the sky. When Zhuan opened his eyes, he found that he was no longer in the small world, but in the Hongwu Square. In front of him was Pei Shanglong, who was holding a gorgeous sphere in his hand. Several more beams of light surged out of the sphere, and groups of cultivators appeared. After about 4 groups of cultivators appeared, the sphere no longer emitted any more beams of light. Obviously, including Zhuan's team, there were only 5 groups of cultivators who survived and successfully passed the trial. Zhuan found that the leaders of these 4 groups of cultivators were basically at the early stage of the yin-yang change. With their lineup, as long as they did not waste time in the trial, it would not be a problem for them to pass the trial smoothly. Pei Shanglong looked at the 5 groups of cultivators and was a little surprised. He found that before the trial, the 3 geniuses at the middle stage of the yin-yang change did not seem to have come out. He waited for a while and found that there was still no light. He knew that the 3 seated contestants were probably dead inside. Thinking of this, Pei Shanglong waved his hand and dispelled the gorgeous sphere in his hand. Elder Pei, there should be someone who hasn't come out yet. Are you going to close the exit just like that? Suddenly, Elder Wulong stepped forward and asked Pei Shanglong. He looked at the 5 groups of cultivators and did not see Xinjue and the others come out. Instead, he saw Zhuan and Ziling come out. His heart could not help but thump. Now that he saw Pei Shanglong dispelling the sphere, he could not help but ask. Yes. Elder Pei, wait a little longer. Song Juanda from our Jianglong state has not come out yet. He might have something to do inside and is delayed inside. The leader of the Jianglong state also spoke. He was very confident in Song Juanda's strength. With the latter's strength, passing the trial was a piece of cake. And Ming Yingwu from our Fenghua state has not come out either. My Wang Wenhong from the Feihong state hasn't come out yet. The people from the Fenghua prefecture and the Feihong prefecture also walked out. They were very confident that their teams would not meet with any mishaps in this trial. Pei Shanglong looked coldly at the 4 people who were questioning him and said, "Are you questioning me?" The expressions of the 4 people who had stepped forward changed slightly, and they hurriedly denied it. I've been waiting for a while. Since they haven't come out yet, it means that they died inside. Otherwise, it would be impossible for there to be no reaction. Pei Shanglong said, "Impossible. Xinjue is at the early stage of the yin-yang transformation realm. How could he have died in there? With his strength, he should have been able to pass this trial." Elder Wulong said in disbelief. The other 3 also each expressed their own views. Wang Wenhong, Song Juanda, and Ming Yingwu's cultivations were stronger than Xinjue's, and each of them had a 4th-rank astral weapon that the sect had temporarily lent them. They didn't think the 3 of them would die in the trial. If that was really the case, their losses would be too great. Not only did they lose their strongest geniuses, but even their 4th-rank astral weapon was lost in the small world. Elder Pei, we must enter the small world to take a look. We must see them if they are alive, and if they are dead, we must see their corpses. The leader of the Jianglong state was a middle-aged man, and he said in a deep voice. Pei Shanglong smiled. He waved his sleeve, and a terrifying power exploded. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. His face became extremely pale. Didn't you hear what I said? If I say they are dead, they are dead. You dare to refute me? That means you don't believe me? Pei Shanglong's eyes were terrifyingly cold. Waves of killing intent shot out from his eyes. Everyone in the square lowered their heads, not daring to look at Pei Shanglong. Elder Wulong's body trembled. He also lowered his head, not daring to look at Pei Shanglong. Chobai, bring these disciples back to the outer sect mountain. From now on, they are the outer sect disciples of our Hanggu Shengzhen. The sect has an assessment every 10 years. If your results are outstanding, you will be qualified to enter the inner sect and become an inner sect disciple. After Pei Shanglong finished speaking, he no longer paid attention to the cultivators who passed the trial, who looked at each other in dismay. With his status, he really didn't dare to have any interest in these cultivators. Originally, he paid attention to the 3 seeded contestants. Unfortunately, the 3 of them didn't live up to expectations and actually died in the small world. He only thought that the 3 of them should have killed each other and died together, so he didn't think too much about it. As for the other cultivators, he was not interested at all, so he didn't have any intention of promoting them. Moreover, he was still brooding about the terrifying sword chi that suddenly burst out from the small world. He planned to report this matter to the sect master, and then thoroughly investigate that small world again. After Pei Shanglong left, Chobai said to the remaining 5 groups, Bring your leaders and follow me to the outer sect mountain. These 5 groups of people immediately brought along their respective guides. Ziling brought the beautiful middle-aged woman, and Li Xinbing's leader was a kind old man. They whispered to each other and all looked at Zhuan in amazement. Then, the middle-aged woman and the old man came together to express their gratitude to Zhuan. After all, Ziling and Li Xinbing had told them that it was all thanks to Zhuan that they were able to pass the trial this time. In particular, the middle-aged woman held Zhuan's hand to express her sincere gratitude. Ziling's cultivation was too low. She had initially opposed Ziling's participation in the entrance trial of Hanggu Shengzhen. However, Ziling insisted on coming. She wanted to pursue a higher path. Originally, the middle-aged woman had no hope for Ziling at all. Now, Ziling had successfully passed the trial and become Hanggu Shengzhen's disciple. What an honor! And all of this was because of the young man in front of her. Daowen, what happened to Kuxinjue in the small world? You must know. Elder Wulong brought Zhenren Zhang and the others to Zhuan's side and stared at Zhuan with an extremely unfriendly gaze. Zhuan looked at these people indifferently and said, How would I know what happened to Kuxinjue? I haven't seen Kuxinjue since I entered the small world. What's the point of asking me? You're lying. It must be you. You used some trick to sneak attack Kuxinjue. It must be you. I want you to pay with your life. Elder Wulong's expression was agitated, and a terrifying aura erupted. Zhuan's face was gloomy. He didn't expect Elder Wulong to attack him just because of a disagreement. Chapter 39-31. Elder Wulong sneered and said, Dao, no one can help you. I'll give you a chance to tell me what happened to Kuxinjue. Maybe I'll spare your life. Elder Wulong slowly walked toward Zhuan. A powerful aura surged out from him. Suddenly, a beautiful middle-aged woman and an old man blocked in front of Zhuan. They also released their auras to block Elder Wulong. Elder Wulong stopped in his tracks. He ignored the middle-aged woman and looked at the old man beside her with fear. This old man's cultivation was also at the peak of the yin-yang transformation. He was not weaker than Elder Wulong. Fellow Taoist, why are you blocking my way? Elder Wulong frowned. This old man was Li Xinbing's master. He was grateful that Zhuan helped Li Xinbing pass the trial. Therefore, when he saw Elder Wulong pressuring Zhuan, he naturally stood up for Zhuan. The old man said indifferently, Fellow Taoist Daowen is an old acquaintance of mine. If you insist on attacking fellow Taoist Daowen, then I might have to accompany you to the end. Elder Wulong frowned slightly. He looked coldly at Zhuan, withdrew his aura, and left the Hongwu Square with Taoist Zhang and the others. "Thank you, senior." Zhuowen clasped his hands at the old man. Although he was not afraid of Elder Wulong, he did not want to reveal his strength in public. It would be easy for people to suspect that he was the one who killed Wang Wenhong and the others. The main thing was that Wang Wenhong and the others had astral weapons. If people guessed that, he would not be in a good situation. The old man waved his hand and said with a smile, "Daowen, you're too polite. I should be the one thanking you. If it weren't for you, how could my disciple pass the trial so easily?" Li Xinbing came to the old man's side and winked at Zhuowen playfully. "Senior brother Daowen, where's your guide?" Li Xinbing asked curiously. "My guide went back in advance. I came to Hongwu Shengzhen alone." Zhuowen said. Elder Bai looked at the old man in surprise and said loudly, "Disciples who pass the trial, follow me. I'll take you to the outer sect mountain." Everyone gathered and followed behind Elder Bai with their respective guides. Yun looked coldly at Elder Bai. He could guess why Elder Bai helped Elder Wulong. It seemed that Elder Bai had received a lot of benefits from Elder Wulong. That Zhuowen could imagine that Elder Wulong would definitely not let this matter rest. At that time, he would definitely ask Elder Bai to target him again. Zhuowen coldly snorted in his heart. If this Elder Bai dared to provoke him again, he wouldn't mind directly exterminating her. Was Elder Bai, Elder Bai, Elder Wulong and Elder Bai. Elder Bai summoned a divine ship and led everyone on board. She started the divine ship and flew towards the periphery of Hongwu Shengzhen. The outer sect mountain was the outermost mountain among the many peaks in Hongwu Shengzhen. It was a rather remote mountain and was specially built for the outer sect disciples to live in. Of course, the chaotic energy in the outer sect mountain was also the thinnest. However, for Zhuowen and the others, even the thinnest chaotic energy in the outer sect mountain was much denser than in the most powerful blessed enclave that Zhuowen had ever seen. "This is your identity token. It's extremely important. Don't lose it." Elder Bai began to distribute the identity tokens and warned them of some precautions. "Elder, where's my identity token?" After Elder Bai distributed the identity tokens, Yun found that his was not there. He could not help but frown and ask. Elder Bai seemed to have just remembered Zhuowen. She glanced at Zhuowen and said, "So you're still here. I forgot to take your identity token. Tonight, come to the 100 Dragon Stone Forest outside the sect. I'll wait for you there. I'll give you your identity token." Zhuowen's eyes were cold and he sneered in his heart. He knew that Elder Bai was doing this on purpose. She did not give him his identity token now, but asked him to leave the sect at night and go to the 100 Dragon Stone Forest outside. Was she trying to trick him? "Okay." Zhuowen nodded faintly. The corners of Elder Bai's mouth curled into a sneer, and she no longer cared about Zhuowen. "Senior brother Daowen, Elder Bai wants you to leave the sect. I'm afraid she has ulterior motives. Don't go to the 100 Dragon Stone Forest tonight." Li Xinbing and Ziling whispered to Zhuowen. "Junior sisters, don't worry. I understand." Zhuowen said. Soon, Elder Bai led everyone to the outer sect peak and arranged a cave residence for everyone except for Zhuowen. Without an identity token, you're not a disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen. Naturally, you're not qualified to have your own cave residence on the outer sect peak. Remember, come to the 100 Dragon Stone Forest tonight and I'll give you your identity token. Elder Bai looked coldly at Zhuowen and left. This Elder Bai is too much. How can she target you like this? Li Xinbing and the others were indignant. They felt that Elder Bai was too much. "It doesn't matter." Zhuowen shook his head, but the killing intent in his heart grew stronger. This Elder Bai had provoked him again and again. Even a clay figurine would be angry, let alone him. As night fell, Yun found that the entire island where Hongwu Shengzhen was located was lit up with surging light, dispelling the countless evil spirits outside the island. Zhuowen looked up and was shocked to find that the light did not come from Hongwu Shengzhen, but from the sky. He discovered that there was a sphere that was several tens of meters in size floating 3,000 meters above the island. The surface of the sphere was full of bumps and hollows, and all kinds of patterns and stone statues were engraved on it. The surging light was like the blazing light of the rising sun, sprinkling down and enveloping the entire island, illuminating it with a myriad of colors. As expected of Hongwu Shengzhen, even his method of dispelling the darkness is so extraordinary. Zhuan shook his head, stood up, and walked down the mountain peak. Senior brother Daowen, are you really going to see Elder Choubai? Suddenly, Li Xinbing appeared in front of Zhuowen and asked with furrowed brows. Zhuowen said helplessly, without an identity token, I don't even have a cave residence. Of course, I have to ask Elder Choubai for one. Li Xinbing bit her lips and said, Elder Choubai must be in cahoots with Elder Wulong and the others. I'm afraid you will be besieged if you go there. You can stay in my cave residence for tonight. Tomorrow, we will report this to the faction. Someone will seek justice for you. Zhuowen looked at Li Xinbing in surprise. He didn't expect that Li Xinbing would take the initiative to invite him into her cave. Li Xinbing felt Zhuowen's strange look, and her face blushed. She snorted and said, My cave residence is very spacious. There are several rooms. We will not be staying in the same room. Junior sister Li, what are you thinking? Zhuowen coughed. Li Xinbing's face became redder and redder. She glared at Zhuowen and wondered if Zhuowen was teasing her on purpose. Thank you for your kindness, junior sister Li. However, I must go there tonight. Even if they join forces, so what? I, Zhuowen, am not afraid of them. Zhuowen smiled faintly and strode towards the outer sect peak. Chapter 39-32. After Zhuowen left Hongwu Shengzhen's mountain gate, he did not directly enter the 100-dragon stone forest. Instead, he summoned his Yin deity. The Yin deity turned into a black shadow and silently flew out, instantly entering the 100-dragon stone forest thousands of miles away. In the depths of the 100-dragon stone forest, he saw Elder Choubai standing on a stone pillar, silently waiting. At the same time, he saw 5 or 6 figures in the dark nearby. Among them were Elder Wulong and Perfected Zhang. They were all from the Wukong State region. Elder Choubai, you really deserve to die. We clearly have no enmity with each other, but you still plotted against me. You're dead meat. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with killing intent. After recalling his Yin deity, he strode towards the 100-dragon stone forest. With Zhuowen's speed, he arrived outside the 100-dragon stone forest in less than 15 minutes. At the same time, within the 100-dragon stone forest, a tyrannical divine sense swept over and landed on Zhuowen's body. Daowen, come in. Elder Choubai's voice came from the 100-dragon stone forest and resounded in Zhuowen's ears. Zhuowen sneered and strode into the 100-dragon stone forest. After a while, he saw Elder Choubai in front of a stone pillar in the depths of the stone forest. Elder Choubai, I came to the 100-dragon stone forest as you requested. Then shouldn't you give me my identity token? Zhuowen said indifferently. Elder Choubai sneered and said, Daowen, I don't know if you're really stupid or pretending to be stupid. You actually dared to come to the 100-dragon stone forest alone. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you in the 100-dragon stone forest? Zhuowen blinked and said doubtfully, Kill me? But I have no enmity with Elder. Why would Elder want to kill me? Elder Choubai laughed mockingly and said, I have no enmity with you, but some people have quite a bit of enmity with you. I received quite a bit of benefits from others, so I can only wrong you and let you die in the 100-dragon stone forest. After Elder Choubai finished speaking, Elder Wulong and the others who were hiding in the dark slowly walked out and blocked Zhuowen's back, completely sealing off his path of retreat. Daowen, I said that you can't escape from my palm. If you know what's good for you, tell us the truth. Perhaps I'll let you die a quick death. Elder Wulong smirked as he looked at Zhuowen. Zhuowen turned around and looked at Elder Wulong, Daoist Zhang, and the others with an extremely cold gaze. Choubai, Elder Choubai Cho sect. As elders of the sect, they actually colluded with others to kill their own disciples. Cho sect said Choubai Choubai's Choubai. Cho of the sect. Cho sects, Cho of course. Sects. Zhuowen didn't say anything else. Instead, he suddenly strode towards Elder Choubai, his powerful aura bursting out. Choubai, hand over your identity token, or I'll beat you to death. Zhuan no longer pretended. Yin and yang energy burst out, forming a huge yin and yang pattern above his head. Trash at the early stage of yin-yang transformation dares to threaten to kill me. You're courting death. Chou Bai saw that Zhuan was only at the early stage of yin-yang transformation. Chou Bai was relieved, but immediately became angry. This Zhuan was too bold to want to kill him. What qualifications did he have? Bang! Chou Bai also burst out with the strength of the late stage of yin-yang transformation. The yin and yang pattern above her head rushed toward Zhuan. Sun spirit! Zhuan snorted coldly. The yin and yang pattern above his head split into yin and yang spirits. The yang spirit turned into a ray of light and merged into Zhuan's body. Suddenly, Zhuan's skin surged with a blazing light. It was crystal clear and looked like a resplendent gem. At this moment, Chou Bai was already in front of Zhuan. Her right fist was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Her target was Zhuan's face. Zhuan coldly snorted. He raised his right hand and, under Elder Chou Bai's incredulous gaze, grabbed his fist. Then, he tightly clenched his fist and fiercely squeezed. Chou Bai felt as if his right fist was being crushed. The extreme pain made her wish she was dead. What's the use of a benevolent elder like you living in this world? You'd better die. Zhuan's voice was cold. His right hand suddenly twisted, and Elder Chou Bai's arm was broken. Then, Zhuan's left hand punched out with a terrifying fist, ruthlessly smashing into Elder Chou Bai's face. Zhuan's strength was too terrifying. Especially after merging with the yang spirit, his physical body was almost unparalleled. In the yin-yang transformation realm, almost no one could break through his physical defense. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, Zhuan blasted out one punch after another. Every punch was powerful enough to shatter space and collapse the rules. Chou Bai was like a toy, passively enduring Zhuan's terrifying punches. Die! Zhuan fiercely punched out one last time. The power of his fist was like a slowly rising sun, blooming with a blazing light that could shock the heavens. Suddenly, it blasted Elder Chou Bai's head into powder. Plop! Zhuan casually threw Chou Bai's headless body not far away. Then Zhuan slowly turned his head. Like a blazing god, he stared coldly at Elder Wulong and the others. Now it's your turn. Zhuan grinned. Elder Wulong and the others, who were originally complacent, suddenly stiffened. They all looked at the scene in disbelief. Elder Chou Bai was a great expert in the late stage of the yin-yang transformation realm. Yet she couldn't resist Zhuan at all. She was beaten to death in front of them. Then, how powerful was Zhuan? Elder Wulong was the first to react. He said in a low voice, "Sure enough, you were the one who killed Kuxinjue, right?" Zhuan shook his head helplessly. "You're about to die, and you're still asking such an idiotic question. Fine, I'll send you on your way." After saying that, Zhuan stomped his right foot and turned into a white light. He disappeared on the spot and instantly appeared in front of Elder Wulong. "You bastard, how dare you?" Elder Wulong roared and blasted out his palms. The surging power of yin and yang surged out like waves and pushed toward Zhuan. Zhuan's eyes were cold. He clenched his right fist and punched out. The air exploded continuously, and the space collapsed, forming black holes and cracks. Bang! Elder Wulong's expression changed drastically. His palm was crushed, and then the blazing fist blasted him back. After Zhuan knocked Elder Wulong back with a punch, he didn't chase after him. Instead, he rushed toward Jinren Zhang and the others. These people were relatively weak. He planned to deal with them first and then focus on dealing with Elder Wulong. After all, Elder Wulong was at the peak of the yin-yang transformation and was the most powerful. Even if Zhuan had merged with the sun god and his physical strength was unparalleled, it would still take some time to deal with Elder Wulong. Chapter 39-33. Perfected Zhang's expression changed slightly. He suddenly pushed out his palms, and a surging palm energy surged out and blasted toward Zhuan. Zhuan sneered and punched out. The blazing fist radiance rose like a blazing sun and smashed onto Perfected Zhang's body. Instantly, Perfected Zhang's palm energy collapsed inch by inch. Perfected Zhang then coughed out a mouthful of blood. His face became extremely pale as he retreated rapidly. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He pointed his right hand between his eyebrows. Suddenly, streaks of soul sword essence gushed out and condensed into a huge purple-gold sword. He slashed down fiercely. Perfected Zhang was obviously not prepared for Zhuowen's attack. He was hit by the purple-gold sword and his soul was destroyed. He fell to the ground and died completely. After killing Perfected Zhang in 2 moves, Zhuowen's figure flashed like lightning and swept towards the rest of the people. He was extremely powerful and almost killed 1 person with a punch. The remaining 4 people were even weaker than Perfected Zhang. They were only at the middle stage of yin-yang transformation. They were no match for Zhuowen at all. When Zhuowen killed the last cultivator with a punch, he slowly turned around and looked at the horrified Elder Wulong. He grinned and said, "You're the last one left. Elder Wulong." Elder Wulong felt a chill in his heart. He looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. His cultivation was only at the early stage of yin-yang transformation. How could he kill middle-stage and late-stage yin-yang transformation cultivators like dogs? This kid is too strange. Let's retreat for now. When he thought of this, Elder Wulong did not even bother to think about it. He immediately began to flee. His speed was so fast that he practically turned into an afterimage. However, Elder Wulong didn't run far. A strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Then he felt a terrifying energy ripple from above. Then he saw a terrifying fist radiance ruthlessly smashing towards the back of his head. Elder Wulong let out a loud cry. He suddenly threw out his right palm and fiercely collided with the fist radiance. Bang, bang, bang. The fist and palm collided, and a terrifying energy rippled out. Then, Elder Wulong let out a muffled groan and fell from the sky, smashing heavily onto the ground. Zhuowen's gaze was indifferent as he floated in midair. Numerous soul sword intents surged out and slammed into Elder Wulong, who was lying on the ground. Instantly, a huge crater appeared where Elder Wulong was standing. Smoke and dust spread out, blocking the view. It was impossible to see what was happening to Elder Wulong in the crater. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen swept away all the smoke and dust. Then, he saw Elder Wulong lying miserably in the deep pit with a pained expression on his face. Elder Wulong also noticed Zhuowen. His expression changed slightly as he struggled to get up. He planned on using his movement technique to escape. Zhuowen snorted coldly, unleashing several sword intents of divine soul and nailing Elder Wulong's limbs to the ground. "Daowen, this is all a misunderstanding. I beg you to spare my life, okay?" Elder Wulong's face was pale as he forced a smile. Zhuowen said coolly, "What a great, all this is a misunderstanding? Elder Wulong, when you were aggressive towards me at the Hangwu Square, you didn't say it was a misunderstanding. Now that you know you're no match for me, you say it's all a misunderstanding and ask me to spare your life?" Zhuowen shook his head. With a wave of his sleeve, a soul sword intent was blasted out and entered Elder Wulong's body. Elder Wulong let out a blood-curdling scream as his eyes lost their luster. He fell to the ground with a plop, dying with his eyes wide open. Zhuowen shot out a stream of divine fire and burned the bodies of Elder Wulong and the others. Then, after covering up the scene, he left the 100 Dragons Stone Forest. After Zhuowen returned to the outer sect mountain, he found Li Xinbing still guarding the place. When Li Xinbing saw Zhuowen return, she immediately went up to him and asked with concern, "Senior brother Daowen, are you all right?" When Zhuowen saw the concern on Li Xinbing's face, he felt warmth in his heart. He nodded and said, "I'm fine. The reason I went out was because of the identity token. Elder Qiubai gave it to me as promised." When Li Xinbing saw the identity token in Zhuowen's hand, she felt a little strange. She was not a fool. She knew that Elder Qiubai was up to no good. She had asked Zhuowen to go to the 100 Dragons Stone Forest alone. However, she did not expect Elder Qiubai to really give the identity token to Zhuowen. Was she overthinking? "Junior sister Li, let's go back." Zhuowen smiled and patted Li Xinbing's shoulder. He then said goodbye to her and returned to his cave abode. Hangwu Shengzhen's outer sect disciple cave abode was huge and rich in chaotic energy. After Zhuowen entered the cave abode, he did not cultivate like the other disciples. Instead, he summoned his Yin spirit. The illusory Yin spirit stood silently in front of Jun. With the illusory nature of the Yin spirit, even an elite in the celestial demon transformation stage would not be able to sense its existence. Why don't I let the Yin spirit explore the entire Hanggu Shenzhen today and find out where the sect leader is being held? With that thought, Jun sat cross-legged on the bed and used his spiritual will to control the Yin spirit to leave the outer sect mountain. The Yin spirit was illusory and like a shadow, it moved silently in the night. Even at night in Hanggu Shenzhen, the Yin spirit was still like a fish in water under the light of the strange sphere in the sky. It moved around Hanggu Shenzhen without anyone noticing. For the next 10 days, Jun stayed in the cave abode and controlled the Yin spirit to explore the entire Hanggu Shenzhen. Needless to say, the Hong martial sacred sect was simply too big. Zhuowen controlled the Yin spirit and spent a total of 10 days, but he was still unable to explore it completely. It's him. When Zhuowen's Yin spirit silently arrived in front of a grand hall, he discovered that the doors to the hall suddenly opened and an extraordinarily imposing middle-aged man walked out. The middle-aged man was tall and slender and had a strange scar between his eyebrows. As he walked, the shadow of a celestial demon could be seen on his body. Gu Yunfei. Zhuowen's eyes darkened. He recognized this man as the celestial demon transformation stage elite Gu Yunfei who had been summoned by Shi Shenhong to Hanggu Shenzhen. He was the one who had captured Hong Shenwu. After Gu Yunfei left, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the hall and saw the words Divine Goose Hall written on the signboard at the entrance. When Zhuowen first came to Hanggu Shenzhen, he had heard that there were 10 elders in Shenzhen and all of them were celestial demon transformation stage elites. The elder who had presided over the trial was one of the 10 elders, the master of Longxiang Hall. And Gu Yunfei could be the master of this Divine Goose Hall. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He felt that Hong Shenwu could be imprisoned in the Divine Goose Hall by Gu Yunfei. The Yin spirit silently entered the Divine Goose Hall through the gap in the door. The Divine Goose Hall was huge and there were many servants and maids walking in and out of the hall. They did not notice the Yin spirit entering the hall. Chapter 39-34. Inside the main hall, there were many books piled up. On the wide table, there was also a pile of rice paper filled with black words. After the servants left the main hall, Yun controlled his Yin spirit and rummaged through the hall. Suddenly, he flipped to a small booklet. It recorded Gu Yunfei's daily affairs. Yun was stunned. He did not expect Gu Yunfei to have the habit of writing a diary. He flipped open the booklet and slowly browsed through it. This booklet looked very thin, but the number of pages inside was endless. It was almost impossible to finish flipping through it. Zhuowen knew that this booklet should have been created by adding the rules of space. He flipped the booklet to the date when Gu Yunfei arrived at the Wukong state. Today, I felt that I was summoned. Through the gate of summoning, I entered the Wukong state and unexpectedly found Hong Shenwu. In order to find the universal scripture of heaven and earth from Hong Shenwu, I brought Hong Shenwu back to Hanggu Shenzhen. Hong Shenwu was very stubborn. Moreover, the depths of his soul was firmly locked by the universal righteousness. Even a soul search could not be carried out. Therefore, I handed him over to the punishment hall to extort a confession. The Yin spirit put down the booklet and revealed a thoughtful expression. It seemed that Hong Shenwu was not in the Divine Goose Hall, but in the so-called punishment hall. Although he was not sure what kind of place the punishment hall was, from the name, he could tell that it was a hall that specialized in punishment. The Yin spirit quietly left the Divine Goose Hall and continued to explore the interior of Hanggu Shenzhen. After about half a day, the Yin spirit finally found the punishment hall. The surroundings of the punishment hall were heavily guarded. It was filled with groups of cultivator soldiers wearing sinister-looking armors. In addition, Yun could feel a thick and suffocating murderous aura around the punishment hall. Zhuowen frowned. He controlled the Yin spirit and slipped into the punishment hall. Zhuowen spent 2 hours to familiarize himself with the structure of the punishment hall. Then, he followed a group of cultivator soldiers and entered the depths of the punishment hall's dungeon. The underground prison was very big and there were cages of different shapes and sizes everywhere. Inside each of these cages were cultivators with extremely powerful auras. Not long after Zhuowen entered the dungeon, he finally found Hong Shenwu in a solitary cell in the depths of the dungeon. Hong Shenwu was tied to the cross, his 4 limbs tightly bound by iron chains. His clothes were tattered and his hair was disheveled. In particular, Hong Shenwu's entire body was covered in wounds that were riddled with thousands of holes. The instant Zhuowen saw Hong Shenwu, a terrifying killing intent rose in his heart. With his eyesight, he could see that there were no less than several thousand wounds on Hong Shenwu's body. Moreover, these wounds weren't just on the body, but also on the soul. Hong Shenwu's eyes were lifeless, almost half dead. What kind of torture did he have to go through to become this numb? Fortunately, Hong Shenwu was still alive. He knew that as long as Hong Shenwu didn't say anything about the Heaven and Earth Haoren Sutra, Gu Yunfei and the others wouldn't kill him. Jun looked deeply at the numb Hong Shenwu trapped on the cross and said in a low voice, "Sect Master, you have to hold on. I'm still too weak right now. Wait until I'm stronger, then I'll definitely save you." The Yin deity turned into a black shadow and silently left the fiend punishment hall. Within the cave, Yuan slowly opened his eyes. He frowned slightly. He controlled the Yin deity and inspected the entire Hongwu Shengzhen. It could be said that Hongwu Shengzhen's security was extremely tight. With his current strength, even if he rescued Hong Shenwu, it would be difficult to escape from Hongwu Shengzhen. If his cultivation could reach the God Realm transformation, then his chances would be much higher. I need to make a trip to Fallen Star Mountain as soon as possible and find the second primordial stone. Zhuowen's gaze was extremely solemn. Although Hong Shenwu's life wasn't in danger, the daily torture wasn't something an ordinary person could endure. At this moment, his cave's restrictions were activated. He opened the cave's restrictions and saw Li Xinbing and Zi Ling standing outside. "Senior Brother Daowen. Today, someone from Green Phoenix Shengzhen is here. It's said that they're here to exchange pointers with the young disciples of Hongwu Shengzhen. At the same time, they're here to prepare for the 4th Shengzhen martial competition," Li Xinbing said. Green Phoenix Shengzhen? Yuan was stunned. He remembered that when Luo Lingyu left Wukong State, she said that she wanted to go to Liyuan main region to join Green Phoenix Shengzhen. He just didn't know if Luo Lingyu had joined Green Phoenix Shengzhen. "Junior sisters, what is this 4th Shengzhen martial competition?" Zhuowen asked again. The 4th Shengzhen martial competition is a competition between the young disciples of Liyuan main region's 4 Shengzhen. It's said that it's held once every 100 years. This time, the 4th Shengzhen martial competition will begin in half a year. This time, Green Phoenix Shengzhen will send the young disciples to test the strength of the young disciples of Hongwu Shengzhen. "Senior Brother Daowen, do you want to come with us to take a look?" Zi Ling's eyes lit up with excitement as she looked at Zhuowen expectantly. Zhuowen thought for a while and continued to ask, "Do you know where the 4th Shengzhen martial competition will be held?" Zi Ling shook her head. Li Xinbing smiled and said, "I heard from one of my senior sisters that the 4th Shengzhen martial competition is a grand event for the 4 Shengzhen. Most of the senior members of the 4 Shengzhen will be participating." The last 4th Shengzhen martial competition was held at Hongwu Shengzhen. This time, it's said that it's going to be held at Green Phoenix Shengzhen. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. According to Li Xinbing, when the 4th Shengzhen martial competition was held, most of the senior members of Hongwu Shengzhen would go to Green Phoenix Shengzhen. Then this was his chance to save Hong Shenwu. There's still half a year left. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He could use this half a year to enter Mount Fallen Star and find the second primordial stone. The stronger he was, the greater his chances of rescuing Hong Shenwu. "Let's go. Let's go and see the people of Green Phoenix Shengzhen." Zhuowen smiled. Zi Ling and Li Xinbing were delighted. They circled around Zhuowen on his left and right, chatting and laughing with Zhuowen along the way. "Junior brother, I knew that you'd successfully entered Hongwu Shengzhen." Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice sounded out, and then 2 tall young women walked over slowly in front of Zhuowen. The one who spoke was a beauty dressed in black on the left. She looked at Zhuowen, and her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. "Senior Sister Luo." Yuan was also delighted and quickly walked up to her. At the same time, Yuan also noticed the beautiful lady beside Luo Lingyu. Her face was cold and her body was filled with a coldness that kept people at arm's length. However, this cold lady was very beautiful. She was not inferior to Li Xinbing, who was beside Yuan. It was just that her temperament was much colder than Li Xinbing. Junior brother, it seems like you're doing well in Hongwu Shenzhen. You've already hooked up with 2 beautiful ladies in such a short time. Luo Lingyu's beautiful eyes swept across Li Xinbing and Zi Ling, who were beside Yuan. Her beautiful eyes curved into a sly smile. Chapter 39-35. Luo Lingyu pursed her lips and smiled. The expression on her face showed that she did not believe him. Zhuowen shrugged and did not continue to explain. Instead, he asked, "Senior sister Luo, have you joined Qingluan Shenzhen?" Luo Lingyu smiled and said, "Yes. Today, I followed my senior brother and senior sister to Hongwu Shenzhen to learn from each other. This is senior sister Jing Lianmeng. She is an inner disciple of Qingluan Shenzhen. She is extremely talented and powerful." As she spoke, Luo Lingyu introduced the cold girl beside her to Zhuan. Zhuan cupped his hands and bowed to Jing Lianmeng. The latter merely nodded and did not even put Zhuowen in her eyes. Zhuowen frowned slightly. Jing Lianmeng was too rude. She merely nodded her head and ignored the greeting. However, Zhuowen did not say anything. He was not a narrow-minded person. Therefore, he dismissed it with a smile. Luo Lingyu was also a little embarrassed. She said apologetically, "Senior sister Jing has always been like this. Junior brother, please don't blame her." Zhuowen shook his head, indicating that he did not care. "Junior sister, don't waste your time with the outer disciples of Hongwu Shenzhen. Come with me to Hongwu Square. Master and martial uncles are still waiting." Jing Lianmeng frowned and said coldly. Luo Lingyu nodded her head and invited Zhuowen, "Junior brother, come with us to Hongwu Square." "We are going there too." Zhuowen smiled. Jing Lianmeng frowned slightly when she saw that Zhuowen was still shamelessly following them. Although she was unhappy, she did not say anything and just kept a cold face. The 5 of them walked together. On the way, Zhuowen and Luo Lingyu reminisced about the past. They talked about many things and sighed in their hearts. When the 5 of them arrived at Hongwu Square, Zhuowen immediately saw 2 figures fighting fiercely in the middle of the square. Suddenly, a figure fell from the sky in a sorry state. A handsome young man slowly descended from the sky. His eyes lit up as he said to the young man he defeated, "Junior brother Lu, thank you for letting me win." "Senior brother Mo, thank you for showing mercy." The defeated youth cupped his hands towards the handsome youth and was helped down by his 2 junior brothers. Zhuowen looked over and saw that the defeated young man was wearing the uniform of Hongwu Shenzhen's inner disciple. As for the handsome young man, he was wearing the same uniform as Luo Lingyu and Luo Lingyu. Clearly, he was a disciple of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen. "Senior brother Mo is so amazing. I heard that he's half a step into the God domain transformation. I'm afraid it won't be long before he condenses his own God domain." Luo Lingyu's beautiful eyes lit up. Beside Luo Lingyu, Jing Lianmeng, who originally had a cold temperament, also revealed a gentle expression when she saw the handsome young man. After the handsome young man landed, another person from Blue Phoenix Shenzhen and Hongwu Shenzhen's teams flew out and started a new round of competition. The handsome young man also saw Jing Lianmeng and Luo Lingyu. He was pleasantly surprised and hurried over. "Junior sister Luo, junior sister Jing." The handsome young man greeted the 2 girls, but his eyes were fixed on Jing Lianmeng. His eyes shone with a fiery light. Jing Lianmeng, who was originally cold, showed a hint of shyness when she felt the handsome young man's fiery gaze. Luo Lingyu saw the opportunity and retreated to Zhuowen's side. "Senior sister Luo, who is he?" Zhuowen asked. "His name is Mo Hongxian, the number 1 inner disciple of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen. His cultivation should be around half a step into the God domain transformation." Luo Lingyu whispered. "Half a step into the God domain transformation is only an inner disciple. Then the core disciples of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen are basically all God domain transformation experts? Yuan asked in surprise. Luo Lingyu smiled and said, yes. Only God domain transformation experts and above are qualified to become core disciples. However, Blue Phoenix Shenzhen doesn't have many core disciples, only 7. They are basically the geniuses of the geniuses in the Liyuan main district. Hangwu Shenzhen has even fewer core disciples than Blue Phoenix Shenzhen. It is said that there are only 3. Yuan was even more curious and said, so, Blue Phoenix Shenzhen's foundation is stronger than Hangwu Shenzhen's. Luo Lingyu whispered, Hangwu Shenzhen is the weakest of the 4 Shenzhen sects. This is the reason why I didn't want to join Hangwu Shenzhen. Yuan smiled bitterly and said, although they have the weakest foundation, they have the most powerful soul master of speech in the Liyuan main district. Luo Lingyu also knew that Zhuowen's purpose of joining Hangwu Shenzhen was mainly for Shan Lingyun. Junior brother, I have asked around about Shan Lingyun. I heard that Shan Lingyun's whereabouts are extremely mysterious. Her cave abode is not in Hangwu Shenzhen. As for her whereabouts, it is said that only the sect leader of Hangwu Shenzhen knows. Zhuowen frowned slightly. According to Luo Lingyu, did that mean that he had to ask the sect leader of Hangwu Shenzhen to know Shan Lingyun's whereabouts? However, Shan Lingyun has set up the Great Speech Incantation Forest in Hangwu Shenzhen. As long as someone can pass through the Great Speech Incantation Forest, he will be accepted as a disciple by Shan Lingyun. This is also a way to meet Shan Lingyun. Unfortunately, for many years, many disciples of Hangwu Shenzhen have tried to enter the Great Speech Incantation Forest, but most of them failed. Even the core disciples of Hangwu Shenzhen have not been able to pass through the Great Speech Incantation Forest. At this point, Luo Lingyu looked at Zhuowen and said, Junior brother, both of these methods are extremely difficult. Yuan cupped his fists at Luo Lingyu and said gratefully, thank you, senior sister Luo, for still thinking about me. I would like to try the Great Speech Incantation Forest. Luo Lingyu wanted to persuade Zhuowen, but when she thought of his character, she chose to remain silent. Senior sister Luo, after the 4th Shenzhen competition ends, how about we return to the Hong martial sect in Wukong State together? Zhuowen suddenly said, his eyes filled with killing intent. Luo Lingyu looked at Zhuowen and frowned. Junior brother, you and I are still too weak. Even if we return to the Hong martial sect in half a year's time, I'm afraid we won't be able to defeat Shi Shenhong. Zhuowen looked at Luo Lingyu seriously and said, after the 4th Shenzhen competition ends, I will go to the Hong martial sect. I just wanted to mention it to you. Luo Lingyu looked at Zhuowen with a complicated gaze. She gritted her teeth and said, all right, I'll go with you. Zhuowen smiled. Junior sister Luo, we've finished our sparring. You're the only one left. Suddenly, Jing Lianming called out to Luo Lingyu. Junior brother, I'll talk to you later. Luo Lingyu looked at Zhuowen apologetically and walked towards Jing Lianming and Mo Hongxian. Junior sister Ziling, junior sister Li, I'm going to the mission hall in Hangwu Shenzhen to take a look at the missions. What are your plans? Zhuowen looked at the 2 girls behind him and asked. I plan to stay and watch the sparring between the disciples of Blue Phoenix Shenzhen and Hangwu Shenzhen. Lin Xinbing thought for a while and said, Chapter 39-36. The mission hall was not far from the square. When the 2 of them arrived at the entrance of the mission hall, they saw an endless stream of people entering and exiting the hall. It was very lively. The mission hall was extremely large and spacious. However, because there were too many people, it was extremely crowded. At the top of the mission hall, there was a huge screen. On the screen, there were rows of densely packed information. Zhuowen looked at it and found that the information was basically all mission information. The mission information was also divided into unaccepted and accepted missions. In addition, the missions were also divided into 4 levels: Heaven, Earth, Black, and Yellow. He asked around and found out that Heaven missions were the highest and Yellow missions were the lowest. Yellow missions were the lowest level of danger. They were for Void God transformation and 5 elements transformation disciples. Black missions were slightly more dangerous. They required one to be at least at the peak of the 5 elements transformation. Earth missions were extremely dangerous. Even yin-yang transformation powerhouses had the risk of dying. Heaven missions were the most dangerous. It was said that only core disciples and God transformation powerhouses were open to them. This was because disciples below the God transformation level would definitely die if they accepted these missions. Zhuan came to the mission hall because he wanted to accept a mission that was near Fallen Star Mountain. He knew that using the sect's transportation portal was free of charge. Therefore, to Zhuan, this was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Zhuan browsed through it and found that the locations of the Yellow, Earth, and Mystic level missions were all near Fallen Star Mountain. He saw a mission related to Fallen Star Mountain in the Heaven missions. Zhuan thought for a while and walked to the counter for Heaven missions. The counter for Heaven missions was deserted. Basically, no one came to accept them. Because the Heaven rank missions were really too terrifying, even core disciples rarely came to accept missions. When the crowd saw Zhuan, who was wearing outer sect disciple robes, walk to the counter for Heaven missions, they were all stunned. Is this brat crazy? He's going to the counter for Heaven missions? I think he's crazy. An outer sect disciple who dares to accept a Heaven missions is courting death. Ziling's face paled as she tugged on Zhuan's hand. Senior brother, this is a Heaven rank mission. Only those at the God realm transformation stage and above can accept it. Otherwise, death is certain. Zhuan smiled. Trust me, junior sister Ziling. Ziling hesitated, but in the end she let go. After this period of time, she had more or less understood Zhuan's temperament. She knew that once Zhuan had decided on something, it would be difficult for her to change his mind. At the Heaven rank mission counter was an old man with a rosacea nose. However, the old man with rosacea was so bored that he leaned against the counter and took a nap. Zhuan lightly coughed a few times and the old man slowly woke up. He opened his sleepy eyes and looked at Zhuan. Outer sect disciple? You're at the wrong counter, you should be at the yellow mission counter. After saying that, the old man leaned on the counter again. Zhuan coughed a few more times, and the old man immediately became unhappy. He angrily said, Did you not understand what I just said? I understand, but I'm here to accept a Heaven rank mission. I need that mission. Zhuan pointed at the Heaven rank mission on the screen. There were not many Heaven rank missions, only 3 of them. Zhuan pointed at the second one. Are you crazy? The old man with rosacea looked at Zhuan suspiciously. Do I look like I'm crazy to you? Zhuan was speechless. Yes, you really look like you. After listening to Zhuan's explanation, the old man finally believed that Zhuan was indeed planning to accept a Heaven rank mission. The old man casually took out the mission token and said lightly, This is a Heaven rank mission. It's extremely dangerous. If you die outside, don't blame me for not warning you. Zhuan was a little surprised that the old man agreed to accept the Heaven rank mission so easily. Zhuan put away the mission token, saluted the old man with rosacea nose, and left the mission hall. What a good young man. Why did he have to go and die? The old man shook his head, yawned, and continued to lean against the counter to take a nap. After leaving the mission hall, Yun and Ziling went their separate ways. Ziling was going to return to her cave residence, and Zhuan was going to take a look at the Great Words Forest. The Great Words Forest was located outside of Hanggu Shangzhen, at the southwest edge of the island. It was an extremely remote place. When Zhuan arrived at the outskirts of the Great Words Forest, he found that there was no one there, not even a gatekeeper. In front of Zhuan was an incomparably huge mountain cliff, and at the bottom was a deep cave. The cave was dark and deep, and there was no way to see what was hidden in the depths of the cave. Zhuan asked around and found out that the cave was the entrance to the Great Words Forest. However, seeing how desolate the place was, Zhuan's heart was pounding. How difficult was the Great Words Forest? Even the disciples of Hanggu Shangzhen were unwilling to come here, resulting in the current situation. Zhuan shook his head, hesitated for a while, and stepped into the cave. Just as Luo Lingyu had said, there were only 2 ways for him to find out where Shan Lingyun was. One was to ask the sect leader of Hanggu Shangzhen, and the other was to go through the Great Words Forest. In Zhuowen's opinion, he could totally give up on the first method. After all, he was just an outer disciple. Why would the sect leader of Hangwu Shengzhen meet him? Therefore, he naturally chose the second method. This was the fastest way for him to find Shan Lingyun. After Zhuan walked through the long and dark tunnel, he came to a mysterious space. This space was extremely vast, like a starry sky. Zhuan was still around this space, and he saw many stars hanging in the sky. In the middle of the space, there were many transparent pillars. On the surface of the pillars, there were many invisible characters. These characters were very strange and mysterious. Zhuan couldn't understand them at all. Zhuan frowned slightly and muttered to himself, "This is a vast world built by the godly spirit." Zhuan was shocked. How powerful must the godly spirit be to be able to build such a vast and boundless world? This is the great words forest created by Shan Lingyun? Zhuan muttered to himself. He was very impressed by Shan Lingyun. Just from the great words forest, Zhuan could feel that Shan Lingyun's godly spirit was much more powerful than his. No wonder she was known as the strongest earth spirit master in the Liyuan main district. Zhuan carefully studied the invisible characters on the pillars. To be honest, he couldn't understand these characters at all. He knew that these characters should be related to the earth spirit master. Just as Zhuan was at his wit's end, the great word stone in the great world suddenly flew out, shining with a shocking purple light. After that, Zhuan was shocked to find that the invisible characters around him all flowed into the great word stone and turned into purple characters. Chapter 39-37. These are the cultivation methods of a spirit master of speech. Zhuan was pleasantly surprised. After the primordial stone transformed the formless runes into purple runes, Zhuan completely understood them and knew that these were actually the cultivation methods of Spirit Master of Speech. Apart from that, the primordial stone had also deciphered the method of the great word incantation forest. However, judging from the contents of these runes translated by the primordial stone, one would need the means of a Spirit Master of Speech to decipher the great word incantation forest. In other words, if Zhuan wanted to decipher the great word incantation forest, then he had to learn the basic cultivation of Spirit Master of Speech. However, Zhuan did not intend to learn Spirit Master of Speech on the spot. After all, the cultivation method translated by the primordial stone was not complete and was not basic. Since the primordial stone had already deciphered the great word incantation forest, Zhuan only needed to follow the path that appeared in his mind and walk out of the great word incantation forest. Thinking of this, Zhuan lifted his foot and walked with irregular steps toward the depths of the great word incantation forest. However, as Zhuan walked in the great word incantation forest, he was also constantly comprehending the runes translated by the primordial stone. Although he knew nothing about the cultivation method of Spirit Master of Speech, Spirit Master of Speech was originally another cultivation method of the soul. They were both cultivation methods of the soul, so Zhuan could use it as a reference to perfect his primordial visualization diagram. After all, his primordial visualization diagram was all-encompassing and specialized in the cultivation of the soul. It could absorb and accept at any time and continuously evolve. As time passed, Zhuan discovered that his primordial visualization diagram had also undergone changes and was beginning to adapt to the cultivation method of Spirit Master of Speech. Suddenly, Zhuan seemed to have understood something. He sat upright in the great word incantation forest and began to circulate the primordial visualization diagram. Suddenly, purple gold runes surged out from between his brows and revolved around his body like little tadpoles. And the instant he sat upright, the runes that revolved around the formless stone pillars around the great word incantation forest seemed to be pulled and madly surged into Zhuowen's body and into the space between his brows. Zhuan closed his eyes tightly. In a trance, he saw a different scene in the darkness. He seemed to be floating in midair, and right below him was a vast island. Zhuowen took a closer look at the island. He was surprised to find that this island was the Hong Martial Sacred Sect, wasn't it? Wasn't he in the great speech mantra forest? Why is it floating above Hangwu Shengzhen? Zhuan furrowed his brows and looked into the distance. Around the island where Hangu Shengzhen was sitting, there was an endless black sea. Zhuan gently stomped his right foot, and the surrounding scenery suddenly disappeared. It was as if he had teleported millions of miles away. What appeared in front of him was an endless black sea, and Hangu Shengzhen's island was nowhere to be seen. Zhuan was bewildered. He took dozens of steps and arrived at the end of the Black Sea, at a vast and boundless land. There were many living creatures on this land, and there were many sects and forces. Zhuowen looked around the continent and saw that in the southeast corner of the continent, there was an extremely large sect. He gently stomped his foot and landed in front of the sect's mountain gate. He found a magnificent Qinghuan stone statue in front of the sect gate. Next to the Qinghuan stone statue was a huge stone tablet, and the words Qinghuan Shengzhen were engraved on the tablet. Qinghuan Shengzhen, Zhuowen revealed an astonished expression. He didn't expect that he would actually cross the Black Sea with just a few dozen steps and arrive at the continent where the Azure Phoenix sacred sect was located. When Zhuowen wanted to continue walking, he felt a sharp pain in his glabella. He opened his eyes and found that he was still in the Great Speech Mantra forest. He saw that the invisible stone pillars around him had dimmed, and the invisible runes around the stone pillars had all rushed into his glabella. The pain in his glabella became more and more intense. At the same time, it was accompanied by an itch, as if something was going to come out from his glabella. Finally, an intense pain came, and Zhuowen cried out in pain. His glabella suddenly split open, and a purple gold eye drilled out. After this purple gold eye opened, it shot out a purple gold brilliance. Then, Zhuowen was surprised to find that the mysterious Great Speech Mantra forest around him was collapsing inch by inch. When the Great Speech Mantra forest began to collapse, on a small island in the depths of the Black Sea billions of miles away from Hangu Shengzhen, a porcelain doll-like Lolita was lying on a rattan chair. Suddenly, the Lolita jumped up, and her beautiful eyebrows were tightly knitted together. It can't be my imagination, right? Why do I feel like the Great Speech Mantra forest I set up in Hangu Shengzhen was broken by someone? The Lolita frowned and muttered to herself. How is that possible? Those disciples of Hangu Shengzhen are a bunch of idiots. How could they break my Great Speech Mantra forest? Not to mention breaking it, no one can even pass through the Great Speech Mantra forest. I must have sensed wrongly. Yes, I must have sensed wrongly. I'll continue my afternoon nap. The Lolita sat down on the rattan chair and then leaned back comfortably. But after a while, the Lolita jumped up again and said in bewilderment, "That's not right. I can't sense the aura of my Great Speech Mantra forest anymore. This is clearly a sign that it has been broken. Let's go to Hangu Shengzhen to take a look." The Lolita paced back and forth on the spot and decided to go back. She took out a rattan staff and hugged it tightly with both hands. Her legs were wrapped around the staff like an octopus. "Little sweetheart, bring me to Hangu Shengzhen quickly." The Lolita touched the tip of the rattan staff, as if she was touching the head of the rattan staff. The tip of the rattan staff suddenly bent and nodded towards the Lolita. Then, with a swoosh, it turned into a shadow and disappeared from the island. Its speed was so fast that it was breathtaking. Boom! When the Great Speech Mantra forest completely collapsed, it shattered into countless rays of light. What appeared in front of Zhuowen was a quiet and secluded valley. Even more surprising to Zhuowen was that there were actually pavilions, and corridors standing within this gorge, and a gurgling waterfall poured down from the rock wall at the end of the gorge, causing it to seem like a silver-colored waterfall that hung down. Zhuowen quickly thought of Shan Lingyun. Since the Great Speech Mantra forest was set up by Shan Lingyun here, then the valley hidden behind the Great Speech Mantra forest should be where Shan Lingyun lived. Junior Daowin, an outer disciple of Hangu Shengzhen, pays his respects to Senior Shan. Zhuowen was quite excited. He knew that as long as he found Shan Lingyun, he would be able to find traces of Moyan Wushang through Shan Lingyun. However, Zhuowen called out a few times, but there was no response from within the valley. He was surprised. After hesitating for a while, he entered the valley and came to the pavilion that was built in the middle of the valley. He searched around and found that there was no one in these pavilions. Suddenly, Zhuowen's divine sense swept out and found a black shadow coming from outside the valley. In an instant it arrived at the pavilion. Chapter 39-38. Hey kid, did you break the great speech incantation forest? The little lowly spoke. Her voice was very clear, like the chirping of an oriole. Although the little lowly in front of him was very cute, Yuan didn't dare to let his guard down. This was because he didn't even notice when the little lowly entered the valley. He only noticed it when the little lowly entered the valley. He knew that the little lowly in front of him was definitely not simple. Seeing that Yuan didn't speak, the little lowly wrinkled her nose and jumped down from the rattan cane. The cane turned into a stream of light and returned to the little lowly's hand. Moreover, it became only 1 foot long. Kid, I'm asking you a question. You actually didn't answer. Are you looking for a beating? The little lowly waved her fist and said angrily, I broke the great speech incantation forest. Little sister, you are? Zhuowen said in a low voice. Little sister? The little lowly said angrily, I've lived for tens of thousands of years, and no one has called me little sister. Zhuowen was speechless. You've lived for tens of thousands of years. Why do you still look like a little girl? Are you pretending to be young? I'm Shan Lingyun. The little lowly snorted. What? You're Shan Lingyun? The strongest speech spirit master in the Liyuan main region, the Shan Lingyun? Zhuowen dug his ears and suspected that he had heard wrongly. Of course. Shan Lingyun said proudly with her hands on her hips. Zhuowen's face twitched. In his impression, Shan Lingyun should be an old woman with a face full of wrinkles. But in reality, she was a little lowly? How did you break my great speech incantation forest? The little lowly asked curiously as she looked at Zhuowen with her hands on her hips and looked at him from the corner of her eyes. I'm not sure either. I just walked casually and the great speech incantation forest collapsed. Zhuowen said in confusion. The little lowly opened her eyes wide and felt that it was unbelievable. He broke her great speech incantation forest while walking. Was he trying to fool her? You actually opened your heaven's eye? The little lowly suddenly noticed the purple gold eye in between Zhuowen's brows and let out a surprised sound. Heaven's eye? What's that? Zhuowen asked in confusion. This was the first time he had heard of the heaven's eye. The heavenly eye is a term used by spirit speech masters. Cultivators with powerful souls will automatically activate the heavenly eye when they cultivate the spirit speech art. Just like me. As the little lowly spoke, a crack appeared between her eyebrows. Then, a black pupil drilled out and turned around as if it was curiously looking around. Zhuowen was even more puzzled. According to the little lowly, only spirit speakers with powerful souls would be able to open their heaven's eye in the later stages. However, he was not a spirit speaker. Moreover, his heavenly eye was a third eye that was derived after his spirit had absorbed the formless characters of the great word incantation forest and perfected the primordial chaos visualization diagram. Senior Shan, I'll be honest with you. This lowly one came to challenge the forest of the great word incantation in reality for the sake of meeting Senior Shan once. Zhuowen suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a low voice, Oh, why are you looking for me? Shan Lingyun asked curiously. Senior, I want you to use your soul language technique to help me find someone. Zhuowen said excitedly. Shan Lingyun pursed her lips and said, Find someone again. You have to know that it's very expensive for me to find someone. Can you afford it? Zhuowen said a little apprehensively, Senior Shan, how much do you need to pay to find someone? Shan Lingyun said indifferently, at least 1 billion supreme-grade chaos crystals. Otherwise, I won't help you find someone. Zhuowen's expression instantly turned ugly. 1 billion supreme-grade chaos crystals. Even if he sold himself now, he wouldn't be able to gather so many earth crystals. Of course, if you agree to be my disciple, I can help you find someone for free once. Shan Lingyun said slyly. All right, I'm willing to be Senior Shan's disciple. Zhuowen agreed without hesitation. Shan Lingyun was a little surprised by Zhuowen's quick reply and was stunned for a moment. Senior Shan, I'm your disciple now. Now, you can help me find someone. Zhuowen said without hesitation. Shan Lingyun rolled her eyes at Zhuan unhappily. Who knew how many people in the Liyuan main region wanted to be her disciple but couldn't? But this young man in front of her wasn't excited at all to become her disciple. Instead, he excitedly asked her to find someone. Shan Lingyun suspected that the reason why this guy was willing to be her disciple so readily was to find someone. Let's put the matter of finding someone aside first. Let me ask you, what realm has your spirit of speech reached? Shan Lingyun asked. I've never learned the spirit of speech technique. Zhuowen said a little awkwardly. What did you say? Shan Lingyun's eyes widened as she looked at Zhuowen and shouted, You've never learned the spirit of speech technique. You're not a spirit of speech master? Zhuowen smiled awkwardly and said, That's true. How is that possible? You haven't even learned the spirit of speech technique. How could you have opened the heaven's eye? Could it be that you're a peerless genius who opened the heaven's eye? That's right, you must be. I've indeed accepted a peerless genius. When Shan Lingyun thought of this, she was so excited that she danced with joy. Her eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. Master, can you help me find someone? Zhuowen asked. But I have to remind you that you haven't learned the spirit of speech technique. In the future, you have to follow me and learn the spirit of speech technique properly. Do you understand? Shan Lingyun said. Zhuowen nodded noncommittally. He looked at Shan Lingyun hopefully, waiting for this little lowly to help him find Moyan Wushang. Do you have the personal belongings of the person you're looking for? And that person's appearance. With these two things, I can help you find this person in the entire Hishu world. Shan Lingyun said. Yuan didn't hesitate to take out Moyan Wushang's portrait and the zither that Moyan Wushang had left for him. She's a young and beautiful woman. Looks like she's your little lover. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and said. Zhuowen smiled awkwardly and didn't explain. Although he and Moyan Wushang hadn't completely confirmed their relationship, both of them had feelings for each other. Moreover, this time, after Zhuowen found Moyan Wushang, he would open his heart to her and plan to accept Moyan Wushang. After looking at the portrait, Shan Lingyun touched the zither again. She closed her eyes slightly, as if she was feeling Moyan Wushang's remaining aura on the zither. The strange thing was that a faint green aura surged out from the zither. It was like a small snake and entered the sky eye between Shan Lingyun's eyebrows. Disciple, I need some time to find your little lover. You protect me and don't disturb me. Shan Lingyun solemnly instructed Zhuowen. Then, she closed her eyes and started to use the spirit of speech technique. Zhuowen realized that Shan Lingyun's sky eye was still open even though her eyes were closed. Her eyeballs were constantly moving around, as if she was searching for something. After half a day, Shan Lingyun slowly opened her eyes and frowned. Chapter 3939. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He hadn't expected that Shan Lingyun wouldn't be able to find Moyan Wushang in the Hishu world region. It seemed like the latter wasn't in the Hishu world region. Master, can you look for him in other worlds? Zhuowen asked, unwilling to give up. Shan Lingyun scratched her head and said dejectedly, With my spirit speech technique, I can use my heavenly eye to search the entire 100 regions. However, the accuracy of my search will be greatly reduced, and I will miss out on many details. Moreover, it will consume a lot of energy. I need to bring 1,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins with me. Zhuowen sucked in a breath of cold air. 1,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins? Isn't this a joke? One had to know that Zhuowen didn't even have a single top-grade chaos spiritual vein, let alone 1,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins. Shan Lingyun said helplessly, I only have 10 top-grade chaos spiritual veins after many years of savings. Disciple, I can't help you find him for the time being. However, you can rest assured that I will collect more top-grade chaos spiritual veins to help you find your little lover. Shan Lingyun stood in front of Zhuowen and patted Zhuowen's shoulder like an old man. Many thanks, Master. Zhuowen felt warmth in his heart. He had just become Shan Lingyun's disciple, and she was already so loyal to him. She actually collected 1,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins for him. This wasn't a small number. Even Hongwu Shengzhen wouldn't be able to take out so many top-grade chaos spiritual veins. Shan Lingyun waved her hand and said, "Why are you being so polite with me? After all, I'm your master, and you're my first disciple. If I don't treat you well, who will?" Shan Lingyun took out a jade slip and threw it to Jun. "You have opened your heavenly eye before cultivating the spirit speech technique. This shows how rare your talent is. This is the basic cultivation method of the spirit speech technique. Cultivate this method first. After you master the basic spirit speech technique, I will teach you a more advanced spirit speech technique." Zhuan received the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense. He discovered that even though the contents of the jade slip were difficult to understand, Zhuan actually comprehended more than half of it with just a glance. Under the influence of the primordial stone, his comprehension ability had reached an unprecedented height and was extremely terrifying. This basic spirit language technique was extremely difficult for ordinary cultivators to understand, but for Zhuowen, it was very simple. He could understand it with a single glance. "Master, this basic cultivation method of the spirit language technique is too simple. I can learn it in one go. Just directly pass down your truly advanced spirit speech technique to me." Zhuowen waved the jade slip in his hand and spoke helplessly. Shan Lingyun stared at Zhuowen with her hands on her hips and said, "Zhuowen, are you joking? What I'm giving you is the most difficult and also the most advanced basic spirit language technique. Even for an extremely talented genius like me, it would take me half a year to master it completely." Zhuowen was speechless. His master seemed to be a little chunibyu. She really had no limits when it came to praising him. Zhuowen also knew that it was impossible for Shan Lingyun to believe him. Thus, he used 2 fingers on his right hand to form a sword and sketched out a complicated pattern in the air. As soon as this pattern was completed, it condensed into an illusory eye. This eye suddenly rushed into the air, and the ripple-like pupils rotated in all directions. It was extremely agile. The eye of spirit speech. You actually mastered the spirit speech technique? You must have learned the spirit speech technique in the past, right? You said that you had never learned the spirit speech technique. You must be modest, right? Your talent is definitely not as good as mine, right? Shan Lingyun was dumbfounded. Then she put her hands on her hips and pouted. She was very dissatisfied. She still did not believe that Zhuowen could learn the spirit speech technique just by looking at it casually. Zhuowen smiled bitterly and said, "Master, I really have never learned the spirit speech technique. I can swear on this. It might be because I have a special talent in the spirit speech technique, or it might have something to do with my heaven's eye. Anyway, learning this technique is as easy as eating a meal for me." Shan Lingyun looked deeply at Zhuowen. After confirming that Zhuowen did not seem to be lying, she started to believe in Zhuowen. "This is too scary. You learned the spirit speech technique just by looking at it. You are really a genius." Shan Lingyun paced back and forth on the spot. Suddenly, she stopped. She took out many jade slips from her spirit ring and handed them to Jun. "These jade slips are all that I have learned in my life. With your talent, if I teach you everything, it will be a waste of your talent. I might as well give them all to you." Jun was overjoyed. He did not stand on ceremony and kept the jade slips into his great world. "From now on, just follow me. The contents of the jade slips are, after all, a place of death. I will teach you step by step. I will definitely make you the strongest spirit speech master in the Heshu world, no, in the entire 100 regions." At this point, Shan Lingyun rubbed her hands excitedly and chuckled. Zhuowen said awkwardly, "Master, I might not be able to learn from you for a period of time." Shan Lingyun put her hands on her hips and said unhappily, "What's wrong with you? Why do I find you so troublesome? You don't know how many people in the Liyuan main region want me to teach them personally but do not have the chance. You, on the other hand, rejected me when I took the initiative to teach you. Are you trying to anger me to death?" Zhuowen had no choice but to tell her about the sect mission he had accepted. "What? You want to go to Fallen Star Mountain? Aren't you looking for death?" Shan Lingyun stared at Zhuowen as if she was looking at an idiot. "Master, I have a very important item in Fallen Star Mountain. I have to get it back. It is related to my future cultivation." Zhuowen smiled bitterly. Shan Lingyun quietened down and did not reprimand Zhuowen anymore. Then, Shan Lingyun searched her body and took out a spirit ring. She threw it to Zhuowen without even turning her head and said, "This spirit ring contains all the life-saving items I have collected over the years. I will lend them to you first. Don't die in Fallen Star Mountain. Otherwise, I will definitely beat you to death on my way to the underworld." Zhuowen took the spirit ring and looked at Shan Lingyun in surprise. He did not expect that Shan Lingyun would not stop him. Instead, she gave him a life-saving item. Zhuowen's heart was filled with gratitude. He quickly bowed to Shan Lingyun and said, "Thank you, Master, for fulfilling my wish. Get lost. Remember to come back early. Don't die there." Shan Lingyun crossed her arms in front of her chest and turned her face away from Zhuowen. Zhuowen bowed again and said, "I will leave now. And I hope that Master will not tell anyone about my apprenticeship." Yun saw that Shan Lingyun's back was still facing him, as if she was still angry. He smiled bitterly in his heart and left the valley. After Zhuowen had left the valley, Shan Lingyun turned around and looked at the empty valley. Her big eyes were filled with disappointment and loneliness. Master has left, senior brother has left, and even the new disciple has left. Why can't they stay and accompany me? Why do they all have to leave? Shan Lingyun mumbled to herself. Her big eyes trembled and sparkling tears flowed down. On her delicate face, there were traces of tears that were sad but beautiful. Chapter 3940. After Zhuowen left the valley, he returned to the cave where he had entered the great mantra forest. There was no one around. Perhaps no one in the entire Hangwu Shengzhen knew that the great mantra forest, which no one had been able to solve for many years, had been solved by an unknown outer disciple. After a while, Zhuowen returned to the Hangwu Shengzhen station. He went to the teleportation formation outside the mission hall in Hangwu Shengzhen. The teleportation formation was of a high level. It could teleport almost everywhere in the Liyuan main district. However, the cost of using this kind of teleportation array could be said to be terrifying. Of course, if the disciple carrying out the mission was a Hangwu Shengzhen disciple, the teleportation formation would be free of charge. However, after completing the mission, the sect would take a portion of the reward. The person in charge of guarding the teleportation formation was an old man in a long robe. Mission token. When the old man saw that Zhuowen was wearing the outer disciple's uniform, he thought that it was a low-level mission. Therefore, he did not care and coldly asked for the mission token from Zhuowen. When Zhuowen handed the mission token to the old man's expression changed. He looked at Zhuowen strangely. "Are you sure you didn't get the wrong mission token?" The old man frowned and asked. "No, I did accept a heaven-level mission," Zhuowen said calmly. The old man said coldly, "Take the token back to the mission hall and return it. This is not a mission that an outer disciple like you can accept." Zhuowen frowned and said, "The person in charge of the mission hall has already given me the mission token. He has already acknowledged me. You are not the person in charge. Why should I return it?" The old man's eyes darkened. He did not expect that a mere outer disciple would dare to refute him. This made him lose face. "Even I can't complete this mission. I might even lose my life. How can an outer disciple like you complete it? I think you are courting death." The old man said coldly, "How do you know that I am not as good as you? Just because you can't complete it doesn't mean that I can't." Zhuowen sneered. The old man was furious. This outer disciple was simply stubborn. He had refuted him time and time again, making him lose face. "Humph! You arrogant and ignorant fool. Since you say so, then take one of my moves. If you can't even take one of my moves, then there's no need for you to do this mission. Get out of here immediately," the old man said furiously. The old man's voice wasn't soft, and it attracted the attention of many disciples who were passing by. They all stood nearby to watch. The teleportation elder's strength is at the peak of the yin-yang transformation. This outer sect disciple won't even be able to take a single blow from him. This outer sect disciple is dead for sure. Let's just watch the show. Let's see how this kid dies. Most of the disciples were gloating. They were waiting for Zhuowen to make a fool of himself, or even be killed by the teleportation elder. I can defeat a piece of trash like you in a single move. Zhuowen shook his head and laughed coldly. Good, good, good. I want to see how you defeat me in one blow. The old man was furious. He did not say anything else. Instead, he struck out with his palm and aimed it at the top of Zhuowen's head. The terrifying power of yin and yang condensed in the void and turned into a black and white palm that came crashing down. Zhuowen stood where he was and stared at the descending black and white palms. Suddenly, an even purer yin and yang energy erupted from his body and shot into the sky like a torrent. The huge black and white palm was immediately destroyed. The old man's eyes were filled with fear. He groaned and retreated, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. You are really an outer disciple? The old man looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. Zhuowen's cultivation was about the early stage of yin-yang change, but his aura was much stronger than his. It was terrifying that he could defeat him in one blow. Can you teleport me away now? Zhuowen retracted his aura and looked coldly at the old man. The old man nodded stiffly, smiled bitterly, and began to activate the teleportation array. Zhuowen entered the teleportation array. A blazing white light wrapped around him, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. The disciples around the teleportation array were dumbfounded. The outer disciple defeated the teleportation elder in one blow, just as he said. This made them feel as if they had fallen into a dream, but the truth was in front of them. Many disciples whispered to each other, asking about Zhuowen's origin. Unfortunately, none of the disciples present knew Zhuowen's origin. The teleportation elder felt bitter. He was defeated by an outer disciple in front of so many people. This was a great loss of face. However, he was also very curious about the identity of this outer disciple. With such strength, he could have become an inner disciple long ago. Even among the inner disciples, his strength would be ranked at the top. In an extremely steep mountain range, a white brilliance appeared at the top of a mountain. At a closer look, a grand villa was built at the top of the mountain. The brilliance was emitted by a teleportation array in the villa. In the villa, a group of people gathered around the teleportation array. They were all looking at the brilliance excitedly. The mission issued by our carefree villa has finally been accepted by someone. It seems that the one who came this time must be a core disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen. The leader of this group of people was a white-haired old man. When he saw the brilliance, his face lit up with joy. The mission we issued is defined as a heaven-level mission. Only a core disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen dares to accept it. With the help of a core disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen, we will definitely be able to enter Fallen Star Mountain and obtain the Heart of Stars. Beside the old man, a middle-aged man in armor was also full of smiles. As the brilliance faded, a figure was revealed. It was Zhuowen, who was wearing an outer disciple's uniform. Zhuowen squinted his eyes and slowly opened them. When he saw his surroundings, he knew that he had been teleported to his destination, Carefree Villa. The old man, who was about to welcome him, saw Zhuowen's uniform and the smile on his face froze. This was because he could see that Zhuowen's uniform was that of an outer disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen. The middle-aged man and the others were also confused. They did not know why Hongwu Shengzhen would send an outer disciple to Carefree Villa. The old man's smile faded. He went forward to welcome him and asked, "Are you a core disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen?" Chapter 3941. You're just an outer disciple. Why can you take on a heaven-level task? In the courtyard, a beautiful young female cultivator finally couldn't help but ask. Because I have the ability to complete this task. But is there a problem? Zhuowen frowned. Everyone in the courtyard sneered at Zhuowen. In their eyes, an outer disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen, who didn't even have the cultivation of yin-yang change, was of no help to them at all. However, Zhuowen was Hongwu Shengzhen's disciple after all. Although he was only an outer disciple, he was still Hongwu Shengzhen's man. Naturally, they didn't dare to ridicule him directly. The power of Carefree Villa was far inferior to that of Hongwu Shengzhen. I'm Carefree Villa's director Zhuang. Carefree Villa. The old man cupped his hands at Zhuowen from afar, and his attitude was quite cold. He was extremely disappointed. He thought that Hongwu Shengzhen would send a core disciple to take on their task, but he didn't expect that it was just an outer disciple with a low cultivation. Hongwu Shengzhen's outer disciple, Dawen. Zhuan also saw the disappointment on the faces of the old man and the others in the courtyard, but he didn't care too much. The main purpose of his trip was not for the task, but for the primordial stone in the primordial cave in Mount Fallen Star. This task was just incidental. He didn't care whether he could complete it or not. Brother Dawen, I'll arrange a room for you in Carefree Villa first. Ren Xiaoyao's attitude was calm. He casually ordered a female servant to take Zhuan to a room in the villa. After Zhuan left, Ren Xiaoyao and the others' faces suddenly became gloomy. Villa master, what should we do? Hongwu Shengzhen sent such an outer disciple. There's no hope for us to get the Heart of Stars. The middle-aged man next to the old man frowned and said, We can't delay any longer. After a while, the Heart of Stars falling from the sky will leave. If we want to wait for the Heart of Stars to fall from the falling star mountain again, we don't know how long it will take. Ren Xiaoyao said with a determined look. The middle-aged man frowned and asked, Then should we bring this Dao inscription with us when we enter Fallen Star Mountain this time? Ren Xiaoyao sneered and said, Of course we have to take him with us. Since he has taken this task, he has to follow us. After all, this is a heaven-level task. Even if he dies, he can only blame himself for not having enough cultivation and overestimating himself. After being led to a rather spacious room by the female servant, Zhuan silently sat cross-legged in the inner room to cultivate the soul speech technique. Shan Lingyun had taught him everything that she had learned in her life. Even with Zhuowen's frightening comprehension ability, it would take him a long time to completely master all that Shan Lingyun had learned. Of course, Zhuan had already grasped the basics of the art of spirit language and could use simple art of spirit language. Moreover, the third eye that Zhuan had just opened was extremely extraordinary. He could feel that the combination of the third eye and the art of spirit language could help him avoid danger to a certain extent. This would be of great benefit to him when he entered Fallen Star Mountain this time. Time flew, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, someone knocked on Zhuowen's door. He opened the door and found that the person standing outside was the beautiful female cultivator who had mocked him when he had just been transmitted to Carefree Villa. From the position of the female cultivator at that time, it could be seen that her status in Carefree Villa should not be low. Today, my grandfather plans to lead the elite warriors of Carefree Villa into Fallen Star Mountain. He ordered me to inform you. The female cultivator said indifferently. Your grandfather? Zhuan did not react for a while. My name is Ren Rong, and my grandfather is Ren Xiaoyao. After the female cultivator finished speaking, she ignored Zhuowen and walked forward on her own. Zhuan followed behind silently. He had already guessed the identity of this woman, so he was not surprised to hear that she was Ren Xiaoyao's granddaughter. At the entrance of Carefree Villa was a rather spacious square. At this moment, there were more than 10 people gathered in the square. The person in the lead was Carefree Villa's director Zhuang, Ren Xiaoyao. Ren Xiaoyao's aura was as vast as the sea. He was not weaker than the sect master of Hongwu Divine Sect, Shi Shenhong. Obviously, he was at least an expert at the middle stage of God Domain transformation. Dawen, you're finally here. I think you should also be clear about this mission. Ren Xiaoyao said faintly. Zhuan nodded and said, The mission I received said that Carefree Villa entered Fallen Star Mountain for the Heart of Stars. Villa Master Ren, can you tell me in detail the characteristics and uses of the Heart of Stars? This way, I can help you find the Heart of Stars and obtain it. Ren Xiaoyao sneered in his heart and said lightly, It's nothing. Brother Dawen, you just need to follow our team. As for the Heart of Stars, you will naturally see it when the time comes. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He naturally saw the contempt on Ren Xiaoyao's face. Obviously, Ren Xiaoyao felt that his strength was too weak to be of any use. Therefore, he didn't even tell him the characteristics of the Heart of Stars. The reason why Ren Xiaoyao brought him along was probably because of the mission. He didn't treat him as the main force this time. Zhuan didn't care. His only interest now was the primordial stone in the absolute beginning cave. No matter how precious the Heart of Stars was, how could it be compared to the primordial stone? After Ren Xiaoyao finished speaking, he began to arrange the members. The rest of the team also looked coldly at Tun. They didn't have the slightest intention of treating Zhuowen as a member. After Ren Rong brought Zhuowen into the team, she followed beside Ren Xiaoyao. She didn't even look at Zhuowen. After Ren Xiaoyao finished arranging, he took out a huge divine ship. After everyone entered the divine ship, he drove the divine ship towards Fallen Star Mountain. Fallen Star Mountain wasn't far from Carefree Villa. It was about tens of thousands of kilometers away. The reason why Fallen Star Mountain had such a name came from a legend around it. It was said that every 3,000 years, a dazzling star would fall from the sky on this mountain. The entire sky would be filled with starlight that shot up to heaven and earth. The strange thing was that the enormous energy produced by the star was only limited within the range of Fallen Star Mountain. It never spread out. Therefore, every time this happened, Fallen Star Mountain would be extremely dazzling. It was like a world of light. This was also the origin of the name Fallen Star Mountain. Fallen Star Mountain was located in the center of an extremely vast mountain range. The mountain range surrounding Fallen Star Mountain was called 9-Star Mountain Range. Although it wasn't as dangerous as Fallen Star Mountain, it wasn't a place where ordinary cultivators could enter. The divine ship was extremely fast. It arrived at 9-Star Mountain Range in 2 hours. The moment the divine ship entered 9-Star Mountain Range, a huge golden figure suddenly swept out from the depths of the mountain range. It was a huge bird that emitted a dazzling brilliance. It had a pair of gold-plated wings. With a gentle flap, it soared into the sky like a golden arrow. Chapter 3942. The golden-winged roc flew toward the divine ship like a sharp sword. It was extremely fast. It turned into a golden rainbow in midair and arrived in front of the divine ship in the blink of an eye. Beast! Ren Xiaoyao snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Instantly, countless sword shadows spread out with him as the center. The blazing sword chi rolled like a vast ocean. This was the sword divine domain condensed by Ren Xiaoyao himself. At the same time, Ren Xiaoyao took out a green divine sword and suddenly slashed out horizontally. Terrifying sword light accompanied by the sword divine domain poured down on the golden-winged roc. Bang! The golden-winged roc's pair of golden wings suddenly blasted over. Instantly, terrifying energy ripples exploded in the sky. The huge divine ship trembled violently, and the surrounding sword divine domain became extremely unstable. It surged in all directions like waves. The golden-winged roc wailed and quickly fled into the depths of the mountain range. Streams of golden blood sprinkled in midair. Ren Xiaoyao put away the sword divine domain. His body trembled slightly, and his face turned slightly pale. Obviously, he had also suffered some injuries in the collision just now. The divine ship continued to move forward. As it went deeper into the 9-Star Mountain range, powerful giant beasts came one after another. However, the giant beasts that attacked from behind were not as strong as the golden-winged roc. Therefore, Ren Xiaoyao dealt with them quite easily. Bang! The divine ship slowly landed on a mountaintop. Ren Xiaoyao led everyone off the divine ship. That's Fallen Star Mountain. Ren Xiaoyao's gaze was solemn as he pointed ahead. Zhuowen stood in the team and looked ahead in the direction of Ren Xiaoyao's right hand. He found that what appeared in front of him was a huge valley. The valley was so deep that he could hardly see the bottom. It was dark like an abyss. Around the abyss-like valley were huge mountains that pierced into the clouds. They were standing at the top of one of the mountains. In the center of the abyss valley were 3 mountains that were higher than the surrounding mountains. They were arranged in a triangle. The surface of the 3 mountains flickered with starlight. They were crystal clear as if they were made of jade. Between the 3 mountains, there was only darkness. It was impossible to see what was inside. Zhuowen looked at the 3 mountains with bright eyes. According to the map in his divine soul, the absolute beginning cave was inside the 3 mountains. This area has an extremely powerful forbidden sky seal. Even if a god domain transformation powerhouse wants to fly in this area, it will be somewhat difficult. Let's walk to Fallen Star Mountain. Carefree Manor's ancestors have explored Fallen Star Mountain for thousands of years. Everyone, we must work together. Don't get lost. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you. Ren Xiaoyao's eyes were solemn as he repeatedly reminded everyone. After which, he took the lead and led everyone downwards. This valley surrounded by many mountains was too deep. Ren Xiaoyao and the others fell for half a day before they finally landed on the ground. Zhuo Wen's feet landed on the ground, and only then did he begin to size up his surroundings. It was Ro Tin, sensed the aura of evil spirits. It was not one evil spirit, but countless of them. Take out your light source and follow me. The moment Ren Xiaoyao landed, he took out a stone statue that was emitting a blazing light. He quickly rushed forward. The rest of Carefree Manor took out the stone statues they had prepared. They carried them on their shoulders and quickly followed. In the blink of an eye, the people of Carefree Manor disappeared into the depths of the black fog. Jun was the only one left standing silently. Suddenly, shadows came out from the depths of the black fog. They let out horrifying howls and rushed toward Zhuon. They wanted to tear Zhuon into pieces. When the shadows approached Zhuon, a mysterious purple gold aura surged out of Zhuon's body. It was like a real dragon that surrounded him. The evil spirits that rushed toward Zhuon were all refined by the purple gold aura. The evil spirits that did not come close hid far away. They did not dare to get close to Zhuon. Ren Xiaoyao, are you trying to kill me? Zhuo Wen's gaze was very cold. The moment Ren Xiaoyao and the others took out the stone statues and quickly left, Zhuo Wen understood that Ren Xiaoyao and the others had only brought him here to let him die here. They didn't really want to take him to Fallen Star Mountain. Unfortunately, the evil spirits had no effect on him at all. In this abyss, Wen was like a fish in water. He would not be restricted by any evil spirits. Zhuo moved forward slowly. The purple gold aura surrounded him, constantly refining the evil spirits around him. There were so many evil spirits here that it was just enough for him to cultivate. In the depths of the black fog, Ren Xiaoyao and the others carried the stone statues and kept running. The middle-aged man in armor followed Ren Xiaoyao. He said with some worry, "Manor Master, if this man doesn't die and goes back to Hangu Shengzhen to complain about us, then our Carefree Manor will be in trouble." Ren Xiaoyao sneered and said, "There are many evil spirits in this abyss around Mount Fallen Star, and there is no lack of ever-level evil spirits. This man has no light source, so he can't live for long. Moreover, even if he's lucky enough to survive, he won't be able to escape. The nearest teleportation portal is our Carefree Manor. Moreover, I've arranged men outside. If he escapes, he'll immediately be killed by our men." The middle-aged man nodded and was relieved. He felt that Ren Xiaoyao's arrangement was reasonable. In this way, one could not escape even if he had wings. "Manor Master, you said before that if we want to get the Heart of Stars, it's best to have 3 God Domain Change powerhouses. Carefree Manor only has 2. Isn't it a bit risky to get the Heart of Stars this time?" The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Ren Xiaoyao smiled bitterly and said, "I put all my hope on Hangu Shengzhen. I thought he would send a core disciple, so we could get 3 God Domain Change powerhouses. But I didn't expect that a trash outer disciple would come. And the Heart of Stars can't be delayed any longer. If we do, we won't have a chance. Now, we have to try even if it's risky. Whether we can get the Heart of Stars or not, success or failure depends on this." Hearing this, the middle-aged man was silent and just followed Ren Xiaoyao silently. Not long after Zhuon, Ren Xiaoyao, and the others entered the dark abyss, a bloated figure suddenly appeared on the top of a nearby mountain. If Zhuon were here, he would definitely recognize this bloated figure. It was Ma Yujie, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Ma Yujie's small eyes rolled around, and his gaze fell on the 3 starry mountains in the center of the abyss. He muttered in a low voice, "God damn it. The passage to the ancient star system in the 100 outer territories has been closed. Those damn Archean gods, they are so arrogant that they did such a disgraceful thing. Damn it. I can only look for the primordial stone and enter the ancient star system with it." Chapter 3943. In the depths of the abyss, Zhuan slowly walked forward. A purple-gold aura surrounded his body, constantly refining the evil spirits around him. When Zhuan walked to the center of the abyss, the Tai word stone hidden in the depths of the great world suddenly lit up with a blazing purple light and trembled violently. Zhuan stopped. He thought for a moment and carefully sensed it. He realized that the Tai word stone buried deep in the great world was about to break free from its control. It was as if something was summoning the Tai word stone. What's going on? Zhuan was bewildered. It was the first time that Zhuan had seen such a huge reaction from the Tai word stone. Moreover, he realized that the Tai word stone's reaction was getting bigger and bigger. The entire great world was trembling as if it would collapse at any moment. Zhuan knew that he had to suppress the Tai word stone's reaction. Otherwise, the great world would probably collapse. That was not a good thing. After Zhuan barely stabilized the great world, a strong purple light suddenly rushed out from the depths of the great world. The surrounding black fog seemed to be afraid of the purple light and retreated. The purple light spread out for a full 10 miles, dispelling the surrounding darkness. Zhuan seemed to have sensed something. He turned around and saw that there was also a purple light 10 miles behind him. The purple light spread out, forming a purple light area that overlapped with the purple light area of the Tai word stone. Zhuan could clearly feel that the Tai word stone was trembling even more violently, as if it was very excited. Another primordial stone? Zhuan's pupils shrank. He immediately thought of something. He knew that only the primordial stone, which originated from the same source, could cause such a violent reaction from the Tai word stone. Moreover, he could vaguely see a figure in the center of another purple light area behind him. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He knew that the second primordial stone had been obtained by someone else. This thing was too important to him. He would not allow anyone else to obtain it. Zhuan forcibly suppressed the Tai word stone's reaction and rushed toward the purple light behind him. A terrifying aura surged out. The figure in the purple light behind him was also stunned. Then he rushed toward Zhuan. He had obviously guessed that Zhuan also possessed a primordial stone. Sun God. Zhuan immediately summoned the Sun God and fused it into his body. His body became crystal clear, and his flesh and blood shone like jade. Boom! At the intersection of the two purple light regions, Zhuan and the figure fiercely punched each other. The terrifying fist force swept out, and the surrounding space sounded like a terrifying explosion. The air was torn apart, and the space collapsed. Zhuan's expression changed slightly. He let out a muffled groan and retreated dozens of steps. Wherever he passed, the ground cracked and the earth trembled. That figure didn't gain the slightest advantage either. He retreated dozens of meters away with a similarly shocked expression. Zhuan looked ahead and found that the figure was extremely bloated. It was most likely a fatty. As the purple light was too intense, he couldn't see the other party's appearance clearly. He could only see the rough outline of the figure. And for some reason, Zhuan felt a sense of familiarity with this bloated fatty. Fuck, the primordial stone is mine. Watch me beat you to death. The fatty opposite him let out a fierce voice and pounced on Zhuan again. Zhuan snorted coldly. This fatty was really arrogant. He actually wanted to beat him to death. Bang bang bang. The two of them started to fight again. Colorful energy ripples burst out like fireworks. It was very colorful, dazzling and dazzling. The two of them were almost equally matched. They fought for a long time. Zhuan also found that the fatty seemed to be cultivating the primordial technique. The power he used was the primordial divine power. The purple light was extremely terrifying. I'll beat you to death today. The fatty was flustered and exasperated. He took out a red bracelet. The bracelet looked extremely simple, as if it had been covered in dust for countless years. There were many small patterns on the surface. They were outlined and combined with each other. It was extremely extraordinary. The moment the bracelet was taken out, Zhuan's pupils couldn't help but shrink. This was because the aura emitted by the bracelet was too terrifying. It was as if it could destroy everything. Rank 5 astral weapon? Zhuan couldn't believe it. He was too familiar with this aura because he also had a rank 5 astral weapon. Its aura was extremely terrifying. It was somewhat similar to the aura of this bracelet. Kid, it seems like you know what's good for you. Since you know that this is a rank 5 astral weapon, you'd better obediently hand over the primordial stone on you. I might spare your life and let you go. The fatty opposite him sounded more and more proud. He even sounded a little smug. Jun narrowed his eyes. From the beginning, he felt that this fatty was very familiar. Now that this guy was close, he immediately remembered when he spoke. Wasn't this fatty Ma Yujie? Back then, after this guy tricked him, he left the lower realm and disappeared. He didn't expect to actually meet this guy here again. Ma Yujie? Jun asked probingly. What? You actually know this fatty's name? Or you? It can't be that bastard Zhuowen who just won't leave, right? Ma Yujie shouted. Zhuowen's face immediately darkened. What was this damn fatty talking about? He actually scolded him the moment he opened his mouth. Was his resentment towards him so deep? Damn fatty, I'm Jun. You bastard actually slandering me like this? Zhuowen said loudly. Ma Yujie was shocked. Due to the purple light, he couldn't see Zhuowen's face. Now that he listened carefully, he discovered that it was indeed Zhuowen's voice. So it's Brother Zhuo. It's really a small world. We can also be considered brothers in hardship. You actually have a primordial stone on you. It's really timely help. You and I are brothers. I won't make things difficult for you. You hand that stone to me, and we'll go our separate ways. We won't interfere in each other's business. Ma Yujie said with a chuckle. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. This damn fatty was simply lying through his teeth. Who was his brother in hardship? Who would provide him with timely help? Brother Ma, I'm in a much more difficult situation than you. The primordial stone is too important to me. How about this? You hand over your primordial stone to me. Then you can scram, and I won't pursue the matter. Zhuowen said. Ma Yujie was flustered and exasperated. This Zhuowen actually still dared to be arrogant in front of him. Brother Zhuo, don't you see this bracelet in my hand? This is a genuine tier 5 astral weapon. Beating you is like beating a mouse. It can easily destroy you. Chapter 3944. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. He took a few steps back and shook his head. I said that I won't hand over the primordial stone. On the contrary, the primordial stone on you is mine. As he spoke, Nguyen took out the purple gold sword embryo. Instantly, a blazing purple gold light soared into the sky like a long rainbow, sprinkling down and illuminating the sky. Streaks of terrifying purple gold sword chi circled around the sword embryo like agile little fish, constantly swimming and emitting a power that was difficult to look at. Rank 5 astral weapon? You actually have one too. Ma Yujie immediately had an incessant headache. No wonder this Zhuowen not only didn't flee after he took out a rank 5 astral weapon, but instead stayed where he was. So it turned out that this fellow had sufficient confidence. Let's stop for the time being. Even if we fight, both of us will suffer in the end. There's no need to fight. Ma Yujie hurriedly said. Zhuowen said coldly, we have to fight. The primordial stone is too important to me. It's related to my future cultivation. Ma Yujie said in surprise, looks like you've also cultivated the primordial technique. Yes, but the primordial technique in my primordial stone is incomplete. If I can't find the complete technique, it'll be difficult for me to continue breaking through. Zhuowen said with a frown. Ma Yujie chuckled. You should have the first primordial stone, the grand word stone, right? I have the ancient word stone, and the technique recorded on it is the follow-up technique recorded on your stone. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed, and killing intent surged. The purple gold sword embryo floating beside him surged with an extremely strong purple gold sword chi, as if it was about to attack Ma Yujie immediately. Brother Zhuo, don't be rash. I'm telling you this because I want to cooperate with you. Ma Yujie said. Zhuowen sneered. This Ma Yujie always wanted to trick him every time he cooperated with him. He would be a fool if he believed him. When Ma Yujie saw that Zhuan didn't say anything and that the purple gold sword embryo was still releasing a sharp sword light, he knew that Zhuan didn't believe him. Brother Zhua, I can swear to the heavens that I sincerely wish to cooperate with you this time. Moreover, don't you want the follow-up to the primordial grand mist technique? There is a follow-up cultivation method in the ancient word stone on me. You and I can exchange cultivation methods. That way, you can continue cultivating, right? Ma Yujie said. Hearing this, Yun was tempted. Although the primordial grand mist stone itself was a supreme treasure and was extremely beneficial to Zhuowen's comprehension ability, what Zhuowen needed the most right now was the cultivation method of the primordial grand mist technique. If you give me the cultivation method in the ancient word stone, I will cooperate with you. Zhuowen said. Ma Yujie sneered. It's impossible for me to hand it over to you. You and I have to exchange it. This is the basis of cooperation. Hearing this, Zhuowen thought about it and finally still agreed to Ma Yujie. He also knew that even if he gave it his all, he might not be able to defeat Ma Yujie, let alone obtain the primordial grand mist stone on him. Following that, the two people each extracted a portion of the primordial grand mist technique's cultivation method on them, made it into jade slips, and then exchanged. After Zhuowen obtained Ma Yujie's jade slip, he carefully checked and deduced. Only after discovering that there were no mistakes did he put it away with ease. Only after he looked at Ma Yujie's cultivation method did he know the specific division of the Great Carefree Realm after the Heaven-Breaking Realm. There were not many Great Carefree Realms, only 4. They were respectively Universe Grand Tribulation, Universe Aspect, Reverse Ancient Starlight, and Myriad Techniques Return to One. And Ma Yujie's cultivation method could only be cultivated until Universe Grand Tribulation. At the same time that Zhuowen checked the jade slip, Ma Yujie was also checking carefully. Only after discovering that there were no mistakes did he put it away in satisfaction. While Zhuowen stared at Ma Yujie, he said in a low voice, Brother Ma, back then, you told me that you came from the ancient era. The ancient era that you spoke of, is it the ancient star system? Ma Yujie's eyes flickered and he said, Why are you suddenly asking about this? I'm just curious. The ancient star system has existed since time immemorial. Even a high-level world like the 100 Outer Realms is so insignificant and lowly in front of the ancient star system. If Brother Ma really came from the ancient star system, then isn't that too embarrassing for the ancient star system? Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Ma Yujie was furious and said, What the hell do you know? Back then, I was also one of the incomparably noble ancient gods. It's all my fault for taking a wrong step and failing to cross the primordial cataclysm, almost dying and Tao dissipating. You don't understand the terror of the primordial cataclysm at all. The majority of ancient gods might not be able to cross the primordial cataclysm. I could still reincarnate after failing to cross the cataclysm. It's already very impressive. Soon, Ma Yujie realized something and quickly shut up. He glared fiercely at Zhuowen and said, Brat, you're tricking me. Zhuowen shrugged, but he was quite shocked in his heart. He didn't expect Ma Yujie to be a god from the ancient star system back then. Although he didn't know much about the ancient star system, he had heard of the ancient gods in the 100 Outer Realms. It was said that the creatures in the ancient star system were the ancient gods. They were extremely rare, and each of them was an extremely terrifying existence. They could destroy the 100 Outer Realms with a flip of their hand. Ma Yujie actually had such an extraordinary origin. No wonder this damn fatty's methods were so powerful. Even Zhuowen was suppressed by this damn fatty. Zhuowen was also very curious about the so-called primordial cataclysm, but he deliberately probed later. Ma Yujie kept silent and didn't want to tell Zhuowen more about the ancient star system. There is still a primordial stone in the primordial cave of Falling Star Mountain. If you and I want to obtain this primordial stone, we must work together. Ma Yujie said to Zhuowen as he advanced. How should we distribute this primordial stone? Zhuowen asked. It belongs to whoever gets it. However, the party who gets it must share the incantation on it. This is the basis of our cooperation. Ma Yujie said. Zhuowen nodded. Ma Yujie's suggestion was very reasonable. Moreover, The two of them had already sworn to the heavenly Tao that they wouldn't act recklessly in the fight for the third primordial stone. While Ma Yujie and Zhuowen were still traveling in the dark abyss, Ren Xiaoyao and the others had already arrived outside Fallen Star Mountain. The three Fallen Star Mountains pierced the clouds. They were jade-like and shone with specks of starlight. They were gorgeous and colorful. The area around Fallen Star Mountain was shrouded in starlight. No evil spirits dared to come close. Therefore, the people of Carefree Mountain Villa kept the stone statues. Ren Xiaoyao came to the gap between two of the mountains. His eyes were solemn as he took out a golden talisman and threw it out. The talisman emitted a dazzling golden light and landed between the two mountains. Instantly, violent ripples appeared there, like water ripples, spreading out in all directions. After a while, the ripples stopped and a ring as tall as a person appeared. Be quick, this talisman won't last long. Chapter 3945. Zhuowen and Ma Yujie ran for an hour in the dark abyss and finally arrived at the periphery of the Fallen Star Mountain. The Fallen Star Mountain is more dangerous than the dark abyss. Brother Zhua, be careful when you enter later, Ma Yujie said in a deep voice. Zhuowen nodded. He didn't need Ma Yujie to remind him. He also knew how terrifying the Fallen Star Mountain was. Ma Yujie walked to the gap between the two mountains and stopped. He slowly pressed his right hand on it. Suddenly, a formless ripple spread out and blocked his right hand from touching it. There is a layer of natural restriction between the three Fallen Star Mountains. It is extremely extraordinary. Ma Yujie took out a bronze mirror from his spirit ring. The surface of the mirror was rusty and covered with copper rust. It looked very strange. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He could feel that this bronze mirror was also an astral weapon. Moreover, it was a rank 4 astral weapon. This Ma Yujie was really not simple. He took out 2 astral weapons casually and had an immemorial primordial stone on him. He really didn't know how this fatty found so many treasures. A green energy beam erupted from the bronze mirror and landed on the Fallen Star Mountain. Immediately, the energy ripples on the surface collapsed and a hole as tall as a person was blasted out. Ma Yujie walked in quickly, and Zhuowen followed closely behind. After the two of them entered, Ma Yujie put away the bronze mirror and the hole on the surface of the Fallen Star Mountain closed again. What a terrifying pressure! The moment he entered the range of the Fallen Star Mountain, Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He only felt an endless pressure covering his body, as if countless mountains were smashing on his shoulders. His legs bent slightly and he groaned. He had to merge his yang spirit to barely straighten up. But even so, it was extremely difficult for him to lift his feet. It was as if there was a heavy weight on his legs that made it impossible for him to lift them. What frightened Zhuowen even more was that the air of Fallen Star Mountain was filled with specks of dust that looked like specks of starlight. These specks of dust were attached to the surface of his skin, and they were like vampires that were constantly sucking his flesh and blood. Zhuowen could sense with great clarity that his blood essence was being devoured by the starlight dust and drained away. Brother Zhua, don't touch the starlight dust. Use your astral weapon and cover yourself with its power. Ma Yujie's voice sounded out. Zhuowen looked over and saw that at some point, Ma Yujie had taken out the blood-red bracelet. Waves of red energy rippled out from the bracelet and circled around his body like a red protective shield. The red energy blocked the starlight and dust in the Fallen Star Mountain. Zhuowen inwardly cursed Ma Yujie's craftiness. This guy had probably already made preparations beforehand, so the moment he entered the Falling Star Mountain, he brought out a rank 5 astral weapon. Zhuowen did not hesitate to take out the purple gold sword embryo. The purple gold sword chi was like a ripple that enveloped his body, blocking the starlight and dust in the surroundings. At the same time, Zhuowen stimulated his own divine power and forced out all of the starlight dust on the surface of his skin. He used the purple gold sword chi to annihilate all of them. Although Zhuowen took out the purple gold sword embryo in time, he still felt powerless. He knew that he had lost too much blood just now. His blood essence had been sucked out by the starlight dust. This made him extremely shocked. In just a short while, his blood essence had been sucked out so much. He was very afraid of the starlight dust. Fortunately, the starlight dust was restrained by the aura of the astral weapon. After Zhuan took out the purple gold sword embryo, the starlight dust in the surroundings dispersed and did not dare to gather. The area of the valley formed by the 3 fallen star mountains was not big, but it was not small either. Other than being filled with dense starlight dust, there were many unknown plants with specks of starlight. 10 miles in front of the valley, there was a small pool of water. This small pool of water was speckled with starlight, as if many stars were reflected in the small pool. When Zhuowen and Ma Yujie arrived at the edge of the pool, they both stopped in their tracks. Their eyes were filled with bewilderment, because they found that there were corpses floating in the pool of water. These corpses were extremely miserable. They were dry and skinny. They were mummies. Obviously, these people had been exposed to the starlight dust, had their blood essence sucked out, and had been poured into the small pool of water to die. From the clothes of these people, Zhuan could see that these people were the people of the carefree villa who had entered the fallen star mountain before him. Zhuan glanced around and found that these mummies were basically ordinary practitioners of the carefree villa. Ren Xiaoyao, the middle-aged man, Ren Rong, and other elites were not among these mummies. Ma Yujie looked around the small pool, and his eyes became extremely dignified. He clicked his tongue in wonder. Zhuan glanced at the small pool. Although he was puzzled about the whereabouts of Ren Xiaoyao and the others, he did not think too much about it. His gaze landed on the fallen star mountain at the front of the small pool. At the foot of the mountain, there was a cave. The cave was sparkling with starlight, as if it was a world of pure starlight. Zhuan's eyes were bright. He knew that this cave should be the Grand Primordium Cave. The 3rd primordial stone was in the depths of this Grand Primordium Cave. TSK. If I'm not wrong, there should be some kind of treasure in the depths of this pool. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have died in the pool of water so strangely. Ma Yujie said. When he heard that, Zhuowen's gaze also landed on the pool. Ma Yujie was right. These people of the carefree villa were all floating in the pool. There were no corpses on the shore. That was strange. Furthermore, apart from this pool, there was only the Grand Primordium Cave in front of this valley. According to Zhuowen's speculation, Ren Xiaoyao and the others should be at the bottom of the pool. Could it be that the heart of stars that Ren Xiaoyao mentioned previously is at the bottom of this pool? Zhuowen's eyes flickered. Previously, Ren Xiaoyao had casually mentioned the heart of stars in front of him. Although Zhuan was not clear what the heart of stars was, he could also sense from Ren Xiaoyao's tone that the heart of stars was absolutely not an ordinary treasure. Brother Zhuo, are you interested in entering this deep pool to explore together? Ma Yujie said with a chuckle. Zhuowen's eyes flickered and said, the content of our cooperation seems to only be the primordial stone, right? Ma Yujie shrugged and secretly praised Zhuowen for being cautious in his heart. He continued, you and I can make a cooperation contract again. This way you can trust me, right? Zhuowen nodded and signed a contract with Ma Yujie again. He also swore to the heavenly Tao. Only then did the two of them plunge into the deep pool with a splash. Ma Yujie was seriously too cunning. Zhuowen had to be on guard. Hence, he wanted the two of them to sign a contract before exploring this pool with him. Chapter 3946. The purplish gold sword embryo revolved around Zhuowen's body as purplish gold sword qi spread out. The surrounding pool water avoided it as though it was the plague, not daring to approach Zhuan. Suddenly, a figure floated up from the bottom of the pool. Zhuan narrowed his eyes as the purplish gold sword embryo beside him shot out a purplish gold sword qi and blasted the figure. Bang! The figure sank nearly 100 meters under the sword qi and floated up again. It didn't even make a sound and was lifeless. Zhuan and Ma Yujie looked at each other and carefully avoided the figure. When the figure floated close to the two of them, Zhuowen saw that the figure had been dead for a long time. Zhuowen looked carefully and realized that it was an old woman. Her entire body was shriveled and devoured by the starlight dust, turning into a dried corpse. Zhuowen also knew this old woman. She was a high-ranking cultivator of the carefree manor and had extraordinary strength. Looking at the state of this corpse, it was likely that she had died not long ago. Zhuowen's eyes turned serious. It seemed that the depths of the pool were not simple. He had to be more careful. About an hour later, Nguyen and Ma Yujie arrived at the bottom of the pool. They saw a blazing starlight rising from the bottom, shining brightly. The area at the bottom of the pool was very large. In the center, there was actually a small hill. This small hill was completely golden, as if it was made of shining gold. At the top of the hill, there were 3 palm-sized irregular crystals lying quietly. The surface of these crystals sparkled with starlight and surged with endless starlight, illuminating the entire pool. Heart of stars, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He immediately recognized that these sparkling crystals were the heart of stars. He also realized that the heart of stars was filled with extremely rich chaotic energy. He was a mile away from the heart of stars, but he could still feel such rich chaotic energy. It was obvious how rich the chaotic energy contained in the heart of stars was. It's actually the heart of stars. This Lord Fatty is really blessed. I actually came across a heart of stars. This is the best source of energy for cultivation. It's so much better than hundreds and thousands of top-grade chaos spiritual veins. Ma Yujie's eyes burned with passion as he licked his lips and chuckled. At this time, there were 4 figures around the small hill. They were jointly summoning a large bronze cauldron and were using it to collect the 3 heart of stars on the hill. However, the small hill was not ordinary. It emitted endless divine light and blocked the large bronze cauldron, protecting the 3 heart of stars. Zhuowen and Ma Yujie's arrival naturally attracted the 4 people's attention. It's you? You're actually not dead. Ren Xiaoyao was the first to react. He looked at Zhuowen, who was beside Ma Yujie, in disbelief. Immediately after, the middle-aged man and Ren Rong beside him also looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. In addition, the other person was also an old man with impressive strength. He was also at the early stage of the God Domain transformation. His strength was impressive. Grandfather, you too continue to collect the heart of stars. Leave these 2 to me. Ren Rong withdrew her hand and left the golden mountain. She turned into a streak of light and landed in front of Zhuowen and Ma Yujie. I really didn't expect that you, a Hongwu Shengzhen's outer disciple, could actually come here and not die. I admire your luck. But your good luck ends here. Both of you will die here. Ren Rong's beautiful eyes were filled with disdain. She raised her chin like a proud peacock. She didn't put Zhuowen and Ma Yujie in her eyes. Ren Xiaoyao's eyelids twitched. He stared fixedly at the purple gold sword embryo and crimson bracelet around Zhuowen and Ma Yujie's bodies. He was shocked. He realized that whether it was the purple gold sword embryo or the crimson bracelet, the aura on their surface was extremely terrifying. It was much more terrifying than his bronze cauldron. His bronze cauldron was already a grade 4 astral weapon. The aura of these 2 people's astral weapons was stronger than his bronze cauldron. They were definitely grade 5 astral weapons. Rong, come back quickly. You are no match for the 2 of them. Ren Xiaoyao roared. Ren Rong didn't care and said, Grandpa, don't worry. I can get rid of these 2 good-for-nothings easily. In Ren Rong's view, Nguyen was a Hongwu Shengzhen's outer disciple, and his cultivation must not have reached the yin-yang change. Ma Yujie was traveling with Zhuowen, so his cultivation was naturally not very good. But she never thought that the 2 of them could come here and not die. How could it be easy? Go to hell, you 2 good-for-nothings. Ren Rong took out a divine sword shining with divine light. She rushed toward Zhuowen and Ma Yujie as fast as lightning. She slashed out with the sword in her right hand. The terrifying sword light spread out and completely enveloped the 2 of them in endless sword light. You're courting death. Ma Yujie snorted coldly. With a thought, a crimson light rushed out of the crimson bracelet. It was extremely fast and instantly pierced through Ren Rong's glabella. Ren Rong didn't even rush to the 2 of them. Her glabella was pierced, and her divine soul was destroyed. She fell to the ground from midair and was surrounded by countless starlight dust. Ren Xiaoyao was furious. The bronze cauldron above his head was even more unstable and shook violently. Villa Master, calm down. The middle-aged man and the old man's faces changed greatly. They quickly stabilized the bronze cauldron. Now they were in a difficult situation. If they removed the bronze cauldron like this, they would have no chance to seize the heart of stars. And the two of them were also full of horror. Wasn't Zhuowen an outer disciple of Hongwu Shengzhen? Why did he have such a terrifying astral weapon? Was it something that an outer disciple could have? Get out of here. These 3-star cores are mine for sure. Ma Yujie shouted arrogantly at the three of them with his nose in the air. Ren Xiaoyao finally calmed down. He took a deep breath and glanced at Zhuowen coldly. Then he looked at Ma Yujie and said politely, "Fellow cultivator, I'm from Carefree Villa. I think you must have heard of it. You and I have no grudges. Please leave. I, Ren Xiaoyao, will not make things difficult for you." Ma Yujie raised his head even higher. His nose was about to reach the back. He said disdainfully, "What Carefree Villa? I've never heard of it. What kind of rubbish is that? Do you think I'll leave just because you ask me to? Do you think I don't care about my reputation?" Ren Xiaoyao's face suddenly darkened. This damn fatty was too arrogant. He ridiculed Carefree Villa and didn't take him seriously at all. "Fellow cultivator, don't go too far. You and I have no grudges. There's no need to become enemies because of this. After all, Carefree Villa is not a small sect," Ren Xiaoyao said. Chapter 3947. Manor Lord, we can only give up on the heart of stars. The two of them are eyeing us covetously. If we continue, they might take advantage of us. The middle-aged man transmitted his voice to Ren Xiaoyao. Although Ren Xiaoyao was unwilling to give up, he knew that the middle-aged man was right. They had to do their best to get the heart of stars. Once he successfully obtained the heart of the stars, Ma Yujie and Zhuowen would definitely make a move. That was simply not worth it. It was better to deal with Ma Yujie and Zhuowen first before thinking of a way to obtain the heart of the stars. Ren Xiaoyao snorted and put away the bronze cauldron. After the bronze cauldron was put away, the boundless divine brilliance on the small hill in the depths of the sea receded and returned to normal. Then, Ren Xiaoyao, the middle-aged man, and another old man looked coldly at Ma Yujie and Zhuowen. Ma Yujie waved his hand and said impatiently, "You can get lost. Don't show up in front of me again. Believe it or not, I'll slap you to death." "You're courting death." The middle-aged man was furious and a blazing power erupted from his body. A huge domain surged out from him and countless Gungjin sword shadows spread out. Zhuowen looked serious. The Carefree Manor was indeed extraordinary. There were 3 God Domain Change Realm powerhouses and the middle-aged man was an early-stage God Domain Change Realm powerhouse. Ma Yujie cursed loudly, but his eyes revealed a wary expression. He took out the crimson bracelet in his hand, and endless crimson light gushed out. After which, it condensed into a crimson light spot, which shot out explosively towards the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man snorted and threw out a palm with his right hand. Suddenly, endless Gungjin Qi formed terrifying golden sword shadows and shot toward Ma Yujie. Bang, 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 bang. The crimson light spot and the golden sword shadows collided and an unprecedented tsunami erupted from the bottom of the pool. The surrounding pool water rotated at high speed and formed terrifying water dragons that flowed rapidly. The red dot of light looked ordinary, but its power was surprisingly great. With a flash of red light, the red dot of light pierced through the middle-aged man's domain and shot toward his glabella. The middle-aged man's pupils shrank. His reaction wasn't slow, and he hurriedly dodged. However, the red light spot was too fast. Although he managed to avoid being hit in the vitals, his shoulder was pierced through. The intense heat burned his right hand and even his shoulder into ashes. The middle-aged man screamed and smashed into a small hill behind him. Instantly, the small hill erupted with boundless divine radiance. The divine radiance was too terrifying. It was like a tsunami that drowned the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man screamed again and again. He barely managed to leave the small hill, but his entire body was covered with terrifying injuries. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. "Motherfucker, what's the origin of this underwater hill? It's so terrifying." Ma Yujia's eyes were filled with dread as he looked at the small hill that held the 3-star cores. Ren Xiaoyao and the old man's expressions changed slightly. The old man hurriedly helped the middle-aged man up, his eyes full of shock and anger. They didn't expect that the early God Realm transformation middle-aged man was actually not a match for Ma Yujia. The red bracelet on your hand is really a rank 5 astral weapon. Ren Xiaoyao frowned slightly. He knew how terrifying a rank 5 astral weapon was. Even if he had a rank 4 astral weapon, he was still unwilling to fight a rank 5 astral weapon head-on. Moreover, a rank 5 astral weapon was extremely difficult to control. This person was able to use it so skillfully. It was obvious that this fatty strength was extremely powerful. Ma Yujie was full of self-satisfaction. He said, "Old man, at least you have some knowledge. This is a rank 5 astral weapon. If you know what's good for you, you'd better get lost. Otherwise, this fatty will attack you." Ren Xiaoyao's expression was ugly, but he quickly calmed down. He said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist, how about we join forces? As long as we join forces and obtain the star cores, I'll only take one and give the other 2 to you. However, before we obtain the star cores, we'll join forces and get rid of this young man beside you. He is Hangu Shengzhen's disciple. If he returns alive and tells Hangu Shengzhen, the news of us obtaining the star cores will be exposed." Ren Xiaoyao pointed at Zhuan beside Ma Yujie, his eyes full of biting cold killing intent. Zhuan narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at Ren Xiaoyao. This Ren Xiaoyao was really a villain. At the beginning, he let him enter the Fallen Star Mountain, left him alone, and let him die in the evil charm of the Fallen Star Mountain. Now that he saw that he was not dead, he actually planned to join forces with Ma Yujie to kill him. His heart was really vicious. Ma Yujie also revealed a strange expression, but he did not speak. Instead, he looked at Ren Xiaoyao with ridicule. Presumably, this Ren Xiaoyao also did not realize that the purple gold sword embryo that revolved around Zhuo Wen's body was also a 5th-rank star weapon. Or perhaps, Ren Xiaoyao realized that the purple gold sword embryo on Zhuo Wen's body was a rank 5 astral weapon. It was just that he knew that he and Zhuo Wen had formed enmity, so he wanted to eliminate Zhuo Wen as soon as possible. Ren Xiaoyao also felt that Ma Yujie's expression was a little strange. His heart skipped a beat. He wanted to continue to persuade Ma Yujie, but he was interrupted by Zhuan. "Villa Master Ren. I accepted Hangu Shengzhen's task and came to help you with good intentions, but you hid something from me. After entering the Fallen Star Mountain, you even abandoned me and let the endless evil charm devour me. Now I'm not dead. I'm in front of you, but you still don't repent and want to join forces with Brother Ma to kill me. I just want to ask you a question. From the beginning to the end, have I, Hun, ever harmed you or anyone in your carefree villa?" Zhuo Wen's voice was calm, but his body slowly surged with a terrifying aura, as if the beast sleeping in his body was gradually waking up. A terrifying killing intent that seemed to have materialized surged from his eyes. His aura was like boiling water, causing the water in the surrounding pool to boil. Ren Xiaoyao was stunned. Bowen was right. From the beginning to the end, the latter had never done anything to hurt the carefree villa. Everything he did was against Zhuan. From the very beginning, he had thought that Zhuo Wen was a weak piece of trash who had abandoned him at Fallen Star Mountain and allowed him to die there. Now, seeing that Zhuan was not dead and had a rank 5 astral weapon, he subconsciously thought that Zhuan would take revenge on him, so he proposed to join forces with Ma Yujie to kill Zhuan. Even his granddaughter, Ren Rong, was not killed by Zhuan, but by Ma Yujie. But Ren Xiaoyao also knew that now, he had completely offended Zhuan. The two sides had formed a deadly feud, and this matter could no longer be settled peacefully. "Fellow cultivator, please join forces with us to kill this man." Ren Xiaoyao gritted his teeth and cupped his fists to Ma Yujie. Zhuan grinned, looked at Ma Yujie, and said, "Brother Ma, do you want to join forces with them to kill me?" Chapter 3948. Zhuan smiled slightly. He knew that Ma Yujie had already expressed his stance. As for the bullshit that this guy said about being friends, he completely ignored it. "Then you and I will kill these 3 people together." Zhuan said. Of course. Ma Yujie agreed readily. He knew how terrifying a rank 5 astral weapon was. Although Zhuowen's realm was not high, with the help of the rank 5 astral weapon, his strength surpassed Ren Xiaoyao's. He had fought with Zhuan many times and knew that this guy was a heaven-defying existence. In addition, Zhuan also had the primordial stone. He didn't want to be enemies with Zhuan. It was too strenuous. Ren Xiaoyao's face turned pale. Ma Yujie had a rank 5 astral weapon, which was already very troublesome for him. In addition, Zhuan also had a rank 5 astral weapon. How could they fight? Wait, let's give up the Heart of Stars and retreat. Ren Xiaoyao hurriedly said. Too late. Zhuowen sneered. He stomped his right foot and blocked Ren Xiaoyao's retreat. The purple gold sword embryo flickered with a blazing golden light. Sword chi surrounded Zhuowen's body, making him look like a god. Ma Yujie twisted his fat body. The red bracelet emitted a blazing red light, like an inextinguishable flame, shining brightly at the bottom of the pool. Ren Xiaoyao and the old man's faces turned green. They never thought that things would turn out like this. Kill! Zhuowen's eyes burst with killing intent. Like two terrifying killing swords, he rushed toward Ren Xiaoyao and the old man. The purple gold sword embryo was like a golden lightning bolt, rushing toward Ren Xiaoyao and the old man. Ma Yujie chuckled and rushed over from the front. The red bracelet emitted a terrifying red light, like an inextinguishable flame, surging and sweeping over. Ren Xiaoyao shouted, took out the bronze cauldron, and rushed toward Zhuan. He knew that he could only give it his all. Otherwise, he would be killed by the two of them. Elder Lin, you go and deal with that fatty. You must hold him back. After I kill him, I'll come and help you. Ren Xiaoyao sent a message to the old man before he rushed out. The old man's face was pale. He did not have a powerful astral weapon on him. Wasn't it the same as sending him to his death to deal with Ma Yujie? However, the old man also knew that he had no other choice. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He silently watched Ren Xiaoyao rush over. He pointed the sword in his right hand forward. Suddenly, the purple gold sword embryo buzzed and turned into a golden lightning bolt, flying toward Ren Xiaoyao. Ren Xiaoyao's pupils constricted slightly. He took out the bronze cauldron and placed it in front of him. Thousands of green rays of light rushed out, and the sound of bells and cauldrons rang out. Bang! The purple gold sword embryo slashed at the bronze cauldron, and a terrifying sword chi swept out like a storm, forcing the bronze cauldron to retreat. Ding ding ding! The purple gold sword embryo quickly slashed out dozens of times. Each sword was filled with sharp power, forcing the bronze cauldron to retreat. Ren Xiaoyao's face turned red. When the bronze cauldron retreated, he was also forced to retreat. Waves of invisible sword intent followed the surface of the bronze cauldron and passed to his hands and even his whole body like maggots in tarsal bones. Ren Xiaoyao suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was frighteningly pale. He roared and released his god domain. Rolling divine power surged out like a torrential river. Ren Xiaoyao's god domain was a black sea. The sea was filled with monstrous tsunamis. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and black lightning flickered. It was like giant black snakes circling the dark clouds. Ren Xiaoyao stood in the sky above the Black Sea. His pale long hair fluttered in the wind. He was like a demon god, insufferably arrogant. Daowen, I want you to die. Ren Xiaoyao roared again and again. The rolling divine power that erupted from him caused the bronze cauldron to emit a terrifying green light. It forced the purple gold sword embryo to retreat and fly back to Zhuowen's side. The bronze cauldron crossed the void with an unparalleled momentum. In the blink of an eye, it rushed over and enveloped Zhuowen's head. It was like a huge mountain falling from the sky, and it could crush Zhuowen into pieces at any time. The violent wind blew. Zhuowen's clothes fluttered in the wind, and his short shoulder-length hair fluttered wantonly. Zhuowen held the purple gold sword embryo in one hand. With a long roar, he held the sword in his right hand and slashed out fiercely. Clang! The purple gold sword embryo stood on the surface of the bronze cauldron. It was as if the whole world had stopped. Sight, sound, and touch seemed to have been stripped away. At this moment, He couldn't feel anything. Soon, there was a shocking explosion. The purple gold sword embryo erupted with a shocking sword intent. The purple gold light rushed above the pool, out of the pool, into the sky, and broke through the sky. Endless cracks appeared on the surface of the bronze cauldron, and the cracks became denser and denser. Finally, they covered the entire cauldron. Then, under Rin Xiaoyao's horrified gaze, the bronze cauldron shattered into countless pieces. Jun slowly walked out of the bronze fragments, holding the purple gold sword embryo in his hand. Like a god descending to the world, he crossed over. The purple gold sword embryo in his hand was raised over Rin Xiaoyao's head and slashed down heavily. No. How is this possible? Rin Xiaoyao went crazy. He stimulated his divine domain with all his strength. The black sea surged to the sky, and the black thunder raged and fell into the sea. His divine domain was completely violent, and a terrifying power spread out. However, the purple gold sword embryo was too terrifying. The towering waves were shattered by the sword embryo, and the raging black thunder was destroyed by the sword embryo. The purple gold sword embryo fell on Rin Xiaoyao's head like a bolt of lightning. Rin Xiaoyao stood frozen on the spot. The waves of the black sea stopped, and the thunder and lightning in the black clouds froze. Boom! Rin Xiaoyao's divine domain began to collapse like a broken mirror. The surface of the divine domain was full of dense cracks. Rin Xiaoyao spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Tyun, fell from the shattered divine domain, and fell to the bottom of the pool. His eyes were wide open, and he died with remaining grievances. The moment Zhuan killed Rin Xiaoyao with the sword, Ma Yujie also ended the battle on the other side. The fat man didn't use his full strength from the beginning. He just dealt with the old man casually. When Zhuan killed Rin Xiaoyao, he used the power of the red bracelet to emit a red light, which pierced the old man's glabella and completely killed him. Damn it, this old man is indeed an expert at the early stage of the divine domain change. It took me so much effort to kill him. Ma Yujie deliberately touched his forehead and found that there was no sweat. He didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, he pretended to play the show to the end and panted. Zhuan didn't bother to pay attention to Ma Yujie, the drama queen. This guy just didn't want to put in any effort, so he stalled the old man for so long. Otherwise, with the power of the red bracelet in Ma Yujie's hand, it would be easy for him to kill the old man. Chapter 3949. Zhuan looked at the broken pieces of the bronze cauldron with a pained expression. The bronze cauldron was a rank 4 astral weapon after all. If it hadn't been broken, Yuan could have merged it with the purple gold sword embryo to increase its power. Brother Zhua, we're rich. The Heart of Stars is a top-grade cultivation treasure. Just one piece of the Heart of Stars is equivalent to 10,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins. Ma Yujie exclaimed with bright eyes. Yuan was stunned for a second, then his eyes lit up as he stared fixedly at the Heart of Stars on the small hill. He didn't know much about the Heart of Stars, and it was his first time hearing about it. Now, after Ma Yujie's explanation, he finally understood the value of the Heart of Stars. Zhuowen couldn't help but think of Shan Lingyun. He knew that Shan Lingyun needed the energy of 10,000 top-grade chaos spiritual veins if she wanted to use the Soul of Words technique to search the entire 100 regions. Now, he didn't need to search for top-grade chaos spiritual veins. He only needed to obtain one Heart of Stars to satisfy Shan Lingyun's condition. The Heart of Stars must be mine, he thought to himself. No matter what, he wouldn't give it to Ma Yujie. Ma Yujie had been paying attention to Zhuowen's expression, especially when he saw the latter's ecstatic expression when he mentioned the Heart of Stars. He immediately regretted his decision. It seems like this kid didn't know the specific use of the Heart of Stars from the beginning. He only knew that it was extraordinary. This small hill is definitely not simple. Brother Ma, let's work together to obtain the Heart of Stars, Zhuan said without batting an eyelid. Ma Yujie's eyes flickered and he said, Brother Zhua, there are 3 hearts of stars, how are we going to split them? Zhuan grinned, very simple, it depends on our own ability. Ma Yujie nodded his head hearing that. He agreed with Zhuowen's words. Let's start working together. Ma Yujie said solemnly. Ma Yujie took out the crimson bracelet and waves of crimson energy surged out like exploding flame ripples. Zhuan took out his purple gold sword embryo, and a blazing purple gold sword chi soared into the sky. Let's attack together. Ma Yujie shouted loudly. The red bracelet in his hand suddenly swept out and blasted towards the small hill in front of him. Zhuan didn't say anything. He pointed his right sword finger and the purple gold sword embryo turned into a purple gold flowing light. It rushed out and drew a misty trajectory in the air. Boom, boom. The combined might of 2 rank 5 astral weapons was extremely terrifying. The surface of the small hill suddenly exploded, and a terrifying explosion that shook the heavens and shook the earth resounded. Boundless divine light erupted from the originally calm little hill. Like a monstrous tsunami, it surged out and slammed into the purple gold sword embryo and the crimson bracelet. The purple gold sword embryo and the crimson bracelet, which had been charging forward with unstoppable momentum, suddenly stopped in front of the small hill as if time had stopped. Boundless divine light circulated, as if it had turned into the world's sturdiest protective barrier, blocking the purple gold sword embryo and the crimson bracelet. Yun and Ma Yujie were hit by the ripples of divine light at the same time. They couldn't help but groan and spit out mouthfuls of blood. However, the two of them also knew that now wasn't the time to retreat. They had to break through the divine light, shatter the protective barrier, and obtain the heart of the stars in one go. Brother Ma, don't hold back. This is a critical moment. Zhuan roared loudly. Surging yin and yang energy surged out, and an extremely huge yin-yang diagram appeared above his head. When Ma Yujie saw the yin-yang diagram above Zhuowen's head, he was shocked. This was also the first time he had seen such a huge yin-yang diagram. This kid was really extraordinary. At the same time that Zhuan used all his strength, he also divided a bit of his attention to silently observe Ma Yujie. From the first day he met Ma Yujie until now, he seemed to have never completely seen through Ma Yujie's specific cultivation. Ma Yujie's body seemed to be enveloped by some kind of mysterious energy at all times, preventing others from peeking at him. After Zhuan used all his strength, Ma Yujie hesitated for a moment, and also used all his strength. His entire body surged with some kind of mysterious energy. The instant this energy entered the crimson bracelet seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, and it emitted a blazing blood-red light. Zhuowen's gaze was grave. The energy that Ma Yujie used was very unfamiliar to him. It wasn't yin and yang energy, nor was it the energy of a divine realm. It was some kind of extremely high-level energy. This was the first time that Zhuowen had seen this kind of energy. After Zhuowen and Ma Yujie poured all their strength into the 2 rank 5 astral weapons, their might became extremely terrifying. The purple gold light and the crimson light intertwined and tangled together like divine snakes, bombarding the small hill. Bang, bang, bang. The small hill started to shake violently from the bombardment, and the divine splendor became even more blazing. However, it was still somewhat difficult to resist the joint attack of the 2 rank 5 astral weapons. The 2 rank 5 astral weapons opened a path in front, constantly approaching the top of the small hill. Yun and Ma Yujie hurriedly followed, walking slowly. About an hour later, the 2 rank 5 astral weapons finally arrived at the top of the small hill. The crimson light and the purple gold light intertwined, transforming into a ring-shaped light barrier that enveloped Zhuowen and Ma Yujie, blocking the terrifying divine splendor energy that was converging in the surroundings. The instant the two of them arrived at the top of the small hill, they moved at the same time. Zhuowen suddenly grabbed towards the 3-star cores. Ma Yujie's movements weren't slow either. Although his body was fat, his movements were extremely nimble. In an instant, Zhuowen grabbed the rightmost heart of the stars, and a surging power surged out from the heart of the stars, almost knocking Zhuowen away. Ma Yujie, on the other hand, grabbed the leftmost star core. His fat hand was like an iron hoop, firmly grasping it, not letting go in the slightest. The two of them moved in unison and were extremely fast. After grabbing the star cores, they immediately stored them in their spatial divine tools. After Zhuowen put the heart of the stars into his great world, he suddenly grabbed the heart of the stars in the center. Ma Yujia's eyes were sharp and his hands were nimble. His right hand formed a claw and fiercely smashed toward Zhuowen's right hand. Zhuowen coldly snorted. His right hand formed a palm and changed direction, blasting towards Ma Yujia. A terrifying energy poured out from the center of his palm, its might overflowing the heavens. Boom! The two of them punched each other and both retreated a few steps. Their auras became somewhat unstable, and they almost lost control of their rank 5 astral weapons. The boundless divine splendor of the small hill almost broke through their defenses and attacked the two of them. Brother Zhua, good reaction. You were actually able to store the star cores in such a short time. Normal yin-yang transformation experts can't do that. Ma Yujie said with a fake smile. It's all right. It can only be said that my right hand is more nimble. Zhuowen said indifferently. Chapter 3950. At the top of the small hill, the two of them began to fight. Terrifying energy ripples burst out. It was extremely terrifying. However, while the two of them were fighting, Ma Yujie didn't notice that a silent black figure was approaching the last heart of stars. When the black shadow approached the heart of stars and turned into a black shadow, Ma Yujie finally reacted. His expression changed drastically, and he wanted to rush toward the black shadow to stop it. Zhuowen shouted coldly as he blocked Ma Yujie with all his might, intercepting him. The black shadow was extremely agile. It grabbed the heart of stars and put it into the great world. After doing that, the black shadow took the dust of the great world and quietly returned to Zhuowen's side. Zhuowen fiercely punched out. After pushing Ma Yujie back, he also retreated a few dozen steps. The purple gold sword embryo was like a loyal bodyguard, revolving around his body and constantly rotating. Strands of purple gold sword chi crisscrossed. Ma Yujie also recalled the red bracelet and left the small hill. He looked gloomily at Zhuowen and the Yin deity standing behind Zhuowen. Brother Zhua, I didn't expect you to have such a trick up your sleeve. This clone of yours has almost no aura. It's like an illusory shadow. Even I can't detect the existence of this clone of yours. Ma Yujie said coldly. Zhuowen smiled and said, I've already obtained the third heart of stars. According to the agreement, it should belong to me. Brother Ma, you won't break your promise and attack me, right? Ma Yujie's expression did not look too good. He groaned and said, I was careless this time. Let's leave this place. After saying that, Ma Yujie rushed toward the surface of the pool without looking back. It seemed that he was really flustered and exasperated. Zhuowen silently looked at Ma Yujie's back as he left. He then looked at the small hill at the bottom of the pool. His eyes revealed a thoughtful look. He chuckled and shook his head, then left the bottom of the pool. Swoosh, swoosh. Two figures suddenly jumped out of the starry pool and landed on the shore of the pool. These two figures were Zhuowen and Ma Yujie. In front of the pool, the cave at the top of Fallen Star Mountain should be the absolute beginning cave. It's our target this time. Ma Yujie pointed at the cave in front of them and said indifferently. Zhuowen nodded. The two of them walked side by side to the front of the cave. The cave was not big. It was 2 meters high and 4 meters wide. A stone tablet stood at the entrance of the cave. There were 2 bold and powerful words carved on the tablet. Absolute beginning. Zhuowen looked at the stone tablet and muttered the 2 words on it. Brother Ma, then looked at Ma Yujie beside him. Of the absolute beginning cave. Of course, it is far more dangerous than the pool from before. Zhuowen nodded when he heard this. Looks like this absolute beginning cave was not as simple as he had imagined. Zhuowen glanced at Ma Yujie. He did not completely trust Ma Yujie. This fellow always liked to hide his cards. If he believed Ma Yujie, Zhuowen would really be in for a bad time. Zhuowen also knew that he could not let down his guard against Ma Yujie after entering the absolute beginning cave this time. Let's go. Let's go in. Ma Yujie spoke. He lifted his foot and walked towards the entrance of the absolute beginning cave. Zhuowen followed closely behind. The moment the two of them stepped into the cave, they heard a terrifyingly powerful gust of wind coming from the depths of the cave. It was as if something was rushing over from the depths. Its speed was extremely fast, almost surpassing the speed of sound. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The terrifying gust of wind was like a rampaging beast that swept over. It instantly swept Zhuowen and Ma Yujie inside. Zhuowen immediately circulated the energy around him in an attempt to resist the gust of wind. However, the gust of wind was too terrifying. It was like an irresistible hand that grabbed his body and pulled him into the depths of the cave. Zhuowen's entire body was swept up by the gust of wind. His ears were filled with the violent gust of wind. The endless gust of wind assaulted his face, causing even the flesh on his face to tremble violently. His surroundings were completely dark. He was unable to see anything clearly. Even when Zhuowen used his soul, everything he could see was still pitch black. After an unknown amount of time, the gust of wind gradually weakened and dispersed in the end. Zhuowen's body landed on a desolate piece of land. This was a vast and boundless wasteland. A waning sun hung high in the sky, dyeing the entire sky blood red and adding a sense of desolation. On the barren land, there were barren mountains, each of which was thousands of miles away from each other. Apart from that, not a blade of grass grew on the wasteland. It was completely desolate and devoid of human habitation. At this moment, Yuan was standing on the cliff of a barren mountain. Ma Yujie was standing not far away from him. Ma Yujie's gaze was filled with a trace of confusion. However, he cleared his head right away. Clearly, he had also just woken up from the unforeseen event just now. Fuck! What the hell is this place? This absolute beginning cave is too strange. This Lord Fatty wasn't even prepared yet and it sucked this Lord Fatty in. What the hell is going on? Ma Yujie cursed. Clearly, this fatty was also frightened by the sudden gust of wind just now. Brother Ma, this should be the world of the true absolute beginning cave. The third piece of primordial stone should be somewhere in this world. Zhuowen said. Ma Yujie calmed down. He looked at Zhuowen and said, Brother Zhuowen, primordial stones can sense each other. You and I both take out our respective primordial stones and sense it carefully. Perhaps we can find the specific location of that third piece of primordial stone. Hearing that, Zhuowen considered for a while. After seeing Ma Yujie also take out his primordial stone, only then did he take out the grand word stone hidden in the great world at the last minute. The surface of Ma Yujie's stone was engraved with a sparkling, ancient character. It was precisely the second piece of primordial stone, ancient character stone. The moment the two primordial stones were taken out, they sensed each other and erupted with a purple light. After that, a thin purple line of light shot out from within the grand word stone and ancient character stone, rushing into the sky and converging into a purple light line that intertwined with each other. This ray of light shot into the sky and stayed there for about an hour before suddenly shooting towards the east. Yuan and Ma Yujie's eyes lit up. They knew that the third piece of primordial stone should be on the east side of this wasteland. Go. Let's follow this light line. Ma Yujie said excitedly. Zhuowen nodded. When the two people originally wanted to set off immediately, the two people's faces changed drastically. Chapter 3951. A world-shaking roar rang out from the bottom of the barren mountain, rushing into the clouds and shaking the horizon. Zhuowen and Ma Yujie's faces were solemn as they retreated several thousand meters away, staring at the smashed barren mountain. The barren mountain had been completely reduced to ruins, shattered into pieces of irregular rocks. A huge hand even more terrifying than the barren mountain rushed out, suddenly landing on the barren ground. It seemed to be trying to push out an even larger body from the depths of the barren mountain. A terrifying aura burst out from the depths of the ground like a storm, causing the entire ground to shake. Just what is this thing? Zhuowen's eyes were filled with shock. The aura from the scaly hand made him shudder. Ma Yujie's face twitched, his narrow eyes filled with fear. This should be some kind of powerful exotic beast that was born within the absolute beginning cave. It's best if we don't meet it head-on. Let's run. Ma Yujie's eyes flickered. After saying this, he used his movement technique and swiftly rushed towards the east. Jun secretly praised him for being cunning. He also used his movement technique to the best of his ability and followed closely behind. Not long after the two of them left, the terrifying exotic beast at the bottom of the barren mountain suddenly leapt out, leaping 10,000 kilometers into the air. This exotic beast was like a crocodile, covered in tough scales. Its limbs were like deer's feet, and its large lantern-like eyes were filled with a strange blood-red color. The exotic beast was too large, twice the size of the barren mountain. The instant it leapt 10,000 kilometers into the air, its lantern-sized blood-red eyes quickly swiveled left and right. Afterwards, those eyes instantly locked onto Zhuan and Ma Yujie, who were rapidly fleeing towards the east. The exotic beast opened its bloody mouth and let out another world-shaking roar. After that, the exotic beast's two powerful hind legs suddenly stomped in the air. Dense crackling sounds rang out in the air, and the space where the strange beast was exploded with an extremely large ring-shaped ripple. The strange beast was like an arrow that had left the bow, suddenly shooting out. Its speed had simply reached an unimaginable level. Zhuan and Ma Yujie, who were originally using their movement techniques to flee, seemed to have sensed something. They suddenly turned their heads and looked towards the sky behind them. Afterwards, they discovered to their shock that an extremely large black figure was swiftly rushing over from the sky behind them. The black figure grew closer and closer, and the two of them finally saw the true appearance of the black figure. It was an exotic beast covered in scales. "It's the monster at the bottom of the barren mountain." Zhuan and Ma Yujie immediately thought of something, and their faces immediately turned ugly. Roar! The exotic beast's speed was simply too fast. In the blink of an eye, it appeared above the two of them. It opened its bloody maw and pounced at Zhuan and Ma Yujie, wanting to swallow them whole. God damn it! This exotic beast is actually so fast. Brother Zhua, we must work together to deal with him. Ma Yujie suddenly turned around and summoned his scarlet bracelet. Instantly, a huge scarlet brilliance spread out, forming layers of terrifying scarlet energy ripples in front of him. It looked extremely terrifying. Yun also stopped and summoned his purplish-gold sword embryo. A terrifying purplish-gold sword soared into the sky and slashed at the exotic beast. Boom! The power of the scarlet bracelet and the purplish-gold sword embryo poured into the exotic beast's mouth, intertwining with a blazing brilliance. The exotic beast's huge body blocked the two forces, while its bloody mouth was directly smashed into a bloody mess by the terrifying force. Its huge body flew backwards and crashed heavily onto the ground. The exotic beast suddenly got up, glaring at Zhuan and Ma Yujie with its blood-red eyes. Its bloody mouth was actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the exotic beast's aura didn't decrease, but increased instead. The exotic beast's 4 feet stomped on the ground again, and its huge body leaped into the air. It broke through the sound barrier and rushed towards Zhuan and Ma Yujie. Brother Ma, let's attack together and blast this beast to smithereens. Zhuan's eyes were solemn. He suddenly grasped the hilt of the purplish-gold sword embryo with his right hand and executed the Grand Mist body technique. His entire body turned into an illusory purple shadow. Ma Yujie's eyes flickered. He quietly put away the scarlet bracelet and took a few steps back. Boom! Zhuan suddenly approached the exotic beast and slashed out with the purplish-gold sword embryo in his hand. A terrifying purplish-gold sword chi rushed out like a purplish-gold rainbow, indestructible and unstoppable. The exotic beast's right claw suddenly smashed out towards Zhuan's face. Rays of scarlet light rushed towards him. Gotcha! Zhuan's figure was like a ghost. After dodging the claw, he accurately stood at the depths of the exotic beast's right arm and chopped off its right hand. Mournful blood splattered out, turning into a rain of blood that poured down in the air. The exotic beast wailed and its huge body couldn't help but retreat. Zhuan also groaned and retreated a few hundred meters. Brother Ma, what are you waiting for? Come and help me kill this exotic beast. Zhuan steadied himself. Seeing that Ma Yujie didn't follow up to deal with the exotic beast, his face turned ugly. He looked at Ma Yujie behind him. Ma Yujie grinned and said, Brother Zhua, with your strength, you're more than enough to deal with this exotic beast. I won't get involved and will leave first. After saying that, Ma Yujie twisted his fat body and suddenly shot towards the east. His speed was so fast that he quickly disappeared. Fuck this damn fatty. Jun couldn't help but curse. He cursed Ma Yujie's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. He originally wanted to chase after Ma Yujie. How could that injured exotic beast let Jun go so easily? The exotic beast roared angrily and charged at Jun again, completely blocking his path of retreat. Then, as if it had lost its mind, it attacked Jun without any regard for its life. Jun's face changed slightly. He kept brandishing the purplish gold sword embryo, blocking the exotic beast's violent attacks. The purplish gold sword chi released by the purplish gold sword embryo was extremely terrifying and sharp. It blocked all of the exotic beast's attacks, and the exotic beast was blasted into a bloody mess by the purplish gold sword chi. However, the exotic beast's recovery ability was too strong. The right arm that Jun had just chopped off actually grew back at full strength. Jun's face was gloomy. He knew that if he couldn't crush the exotic beast in one go, it would be impossible to kill it. Jun took a deep breath. He suddenly grasped the purplish gold sword embryo and executed the primordial body technique to the extreme. Then, he planned to use the purplish gold sword embryo to execute the primordial soldier art. The primordial soldier art was the culmination of Zhuowen's many divine abilities. It fused with many powerful divine abilities, and its power was boundless. This was the first time he executed the primordial soldier art with a rank 5 astral weapon, and he didn't know how powerful it was. Heaven and Earth, Primordial Silver Lining. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.